Chapter 2674. Does a puny divine emperor need my help? 1. After knowing the other party's true identity, the Third Alliance Master felt like he was courting death. He deeply regretted that he had been so easily seduced by her beauty that he had believed the nonsense that she was not Lung Ruoxue. If he had probed more or investigated properly, he wouldn't have made such a low-level mistake. Alliance Master 3 was filled with regret. However, he wasn't in the mood to think about whether Alliance Master 5 had lied to him. Instead, he was racking his brain to think of ways to salvage his relationship with Lung Ruoxue. After thinking for a while, he frowned and said, "Since it's Miss Lung, then this one has offended you before. I apologize to you here. Is there any misunderstanding with us? I didn't see your brother or any of your subordinates. If I see them, I'll definitely treat them as distinguished guests. I hope that Miss Lung can rest assured on this." Rest assured? Can I be at ease? My brother and his subordinates fell into your hands and were forced to sign a slave contract. That's right, although this matter was done by your precious daughter, it's the father's fault for not teaching the child well, so you can't escape responsibility for this matter. Lung Ruoxue said indifferently. The way she looked at the Third Alliance Master was rather unfriendly, and it also made his hair stand on end. Never in his dreams would he have thought that this goddess of killing's brother and subordinate would actually be forced to sign a slave contract, and it was even done by his incompetent daughter. Looking at the other party's confident appearance, it was clear that there was enough evidence, and there was no room for him to quibble. What was this good? The Third Alliance Master was deeply worried. He felt that the consequences of this matter were too serious. If they didn't handle it well, they might all lose their lives. What terrified him the most was that a woman who didn't even care about a divine master would care about these so-called ants. Swear he even sold us out. Seeing that Lung Ruoxue seemed to have forgotten about this matter, the parasol tree mother reminded her. Only today did I find out that I'm only worth 5 pieces of high-grade crystal stones. Third Alliance Master, do you have any thoughts on this? Lung Ruoxue said nonchalantly. No, it's not like I don't know your identity. You can't blame me for not knowing. The Third Alliance Master said shamelessly. He couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat on his forehead. He felt like he was already half a step into hell. How could he be so unlucky to have provoked this fiend? Just because you said you didn't know, you can shirk responsibility for what you did? Then, I'll cut you guys off first, and then you can say that I didn't do it on purpose? Lung Ruoxue asked with a half-smile. How was he supposed to respond to this? The Third Alliance Master's forehead broke out in cold sweat. He finally understood how difficult it was to deal with Lung Ruoxue. In the past, he didn't really believe it when he heard it from others. Now that he had personally experienced it, he knew that it was impossible to let it go today. It was hard to say if he could even keep his life. Third Alliance Master, we didn't come here today to listen to you shirk responsibility. Lung Ruoxue saw that the other party did not say a word and continued. He knew that it was precisely because he knew that he was even more at a loss on how to save his little life. This was especially so when he had heard that Lung Ruoxue would never show mercy to her enemies. Although he could not be considered her enemy, he had clearly done something that crossed her line. The faint sounds of fighting could be heard from outside. He knew that someone had already started to fight. Just as the Third Alliance Master was racking his brains for a solution, the parasol tree said impatiently, "Swear, why are you talking so much nonsense with him? Hurry up and do it." Seeing that the parasol tree was getting anxious, Lung Ruoxue made a rather helpless expression and laughed evilly. "As you can see, I've already given you a lot of time. Let's not waste each other's time. After taking care of you, I still have to deal with the leaders of the 4 alliances. He also has a share." Hearing that Alliance Master 4 was also involved, Alliance Master 3 miraculously felt better and decided to go all out. He had already crossed the other party's bottom line anyway, and it was obvious that there was no possibility of reconciliation from Lung Ruoxue's expression. Since that was the case, why was he still lowering his voice? Thinking of this, the Third Alliance Master's aura suddenly rose. He then shouted at the two, "If you kill us, the Ascender Alliance will not let you off." Thanks, it doesn't matter. They'll kill you first. Lung Ruoxue was unconcerned. The moment she spoke, the mother parasol tree did not want to listen to the other party's nonsense and charged forward. In just a moment, the other party had already lost his life, dying with grievances. Before he died, he didn't even have the time to struggle or call for help. Seeing that the third alliance master had died so easily, the parasol tree mother tree was stunned for a moment, then said embarrassedly, I was a little too heavy-handed and let him off easy. Senior, he is only a high-level deity. Lung Ruoxue held her forehead speechlessly. With their strength, they could kill these people in an instant. So, if they didn't want them to die too quickly, they could only treat them gently. Otherwise, it would be over. The mother parasol tree put on an expression of being taught and promised seriously, Swear, I will be careful in the future. Lung Ruoxue nodded and started a fire. Then, she pulled the mother parasol tree to the other courtyard. That was where the mists of the 3 leagues lived. At this moment, with the help of his precious little beasts, Li Zhong and the others were having a great time taking their revenge. They killed many of the dogs from the 3 alliances, but only the young miss of the 3 alliances was left to watch. The lady of the 3 leagues that Lung Ruoxue saw was considered a beauty. Her small face was filled with fear and disbelief. Her body trembled like a fallen leaf, and her face was so pale that she looked like she would faint at any moment. However, Baby's little beast surrounded her and insisted that she take a good look at the miserable state of her subordinates. If she didn't cooperate or watch carefully, Baby would use a rusty silver needle as thick as a chopstick to stab the big miss of the 3 leagues. In this short period of time, Lung Ruoxue had already heard a few howls that sounded like pigs being slaughtered. Seeing Lung Ruoxue and the parasol tree approach, Baby immediately jumped happily to Lung Ruoxue's side after stabbing the miss of the 3 leagues. He shouted happily, Cute master, you've come. Baby, this needle? Lung Ruoxue blinked her eyes. This needle looked a little familiar. It was abandoned by my master and I picked it up. Now, it's finally put to good use. This is much better than a dagger and it's also more painful. Baby laughed evilly. Lung Ruoxue didn't know what to say. The mother parasol tree patted her baby's fluffy little head excitedly and praised, Baby, you're so smart and know how to save money. You've made good use of this waste. Hee. After being praised, Baby became more and more proud. At the same time, Li Zhong and the rest had already worked together to eliminate the last guard of the 3 alliances. They walked quickly to Lung Ruoxue's side and said excitedly, Swear, this is really too satisfying. They were having a great time fighting. Although they usually worked together, as long as they could get revenge for themselves, who cared if it was a group fight or not? Chapter 2675. Does a puny divine emperor need my help? 2. How do you plan to deal with the miss of the 3 leagues? Lung Ruoxue first nodded, then asked. Looking at the eldest miss of Sanmeng's expression, there was a trace of unwillingness in her fear. It was obvious that she had a deep resentment towards her situation. Such a person could not be allowed to live. Fortunately, Li Zhong and the rest had already discussed this beforehand. He smiled evilly at Lung Ruoxue and said, Let's make her a slave contract first. Then, let her experience the various means she has imposed on us. After listening, before Lung Ruoxue could even nod her head, she heard the eldest miss of the 3 leagues wailing, You can't do this to me. I'm the young lady of the 3 leagues. The Ascender Alliance will not let you off. Sanmeng's young miss shouted herself hoarse. She still didn't know how things had turned out like this. He was clearly her slave, but how did he become the master of the house in the blink of an eye? Not only that, but he also brought a few fiendish beasts to seek revenge. The people of the 3 leagues couldn't even withstand a single move from him. Such a fact was really too tragic. She could not understand. However, no one cared after she shouted. Li Zhong was even more impatient as he slapped her and shouted, You're no longer the lady of the 3 leagues, you're just our prisoner. After being slapped, the lady of the 3 leagues saw stars and was forced to accept the truth. She signed a slave contract with Luo Fei as her representative. After the contract was completed, the young miss of the 3 leagues was free. Although the succubi would no longer stare at her as if she was a criminal, the young miss still did not escape their sight. What made them even more speechless was that the big miss of the 3 alliances, who was a slave, had actually not given up and had actually used a beauty trap on Luo Fei. This really made everyone not know whether to laugh or cry. Luo Fei, on the other hand, was both embarrassed and angry, his face alternating between green and white. He fully fulfilled his duty as a master and severely punished her. At this point, the big miss of the 3 leagues finally became well-behaved for the time being. The listless miss of the 3rd league was then brought to the 4th league for her to continue watching. As Leng Ruoxue and the rest had acted swiftly in the 3 leagues and destroyed the corpses thoroughly, the 4 leagues had no idea what was going on in the 3 leagues. This made Leng Ruoxue and the rest's actions much more convenient. After using the same method to get rid of the 4 alliances and leaving behind the 4 alliance masters, Leng Ruoxue burned down all the buildings in the 4 alliances. Then, everyone left. As for the 4 alliance masters, they were treated the same way as the ladies of the 3 alliances. They were all forced to sign slave contracts, and the beneficiary of their slaves was Li Zhong. "Shuer, where are we going?" Li Zhong asked calmly after leaving the Ascender Alliance's territory. Having gotten their revenge, they had never felt so relaxed before. "Of course, we're going to raid the guild that's doing quests," Leng Ruoxue said calmly. She had tasted the sweetness of the Bamboo City Quest Guild, so she didn't want to let the other quest guilds in the godly mainland go. Wuhan's business was really profitable. It was simply a business without capital. She must rob the other party so that Wuhan would not benefit. She had so many people to feed, and the construction of Demon City was a bottomless pit. Without money, she couldn't do anything. With this thought in mind, she felt that the Robbery Mission Guild was a matter of course. In order to reunite the Luo family, the members of the Luo family, who had originally planned to go into seclusion, were awakened. Now that they heard that they were going to be robbed, they immediately became excited. After living for so long, there were not many opportunities for them to openly rob others. "Thanks, Master. Can we join in?" Luo Lin pleaded with an embarrassed look, his sparkling eyes filled with desire and anticipation. "You're only allowed to look, no talking," Leng Ruoxue requested. In fact, even if Luo Lin didn't say so, she would still let them participate. After all, this was definitely a good opportunity to increase their knowledge. "We'll just watch and not talk," Luo Lin promised like an obedient baby. In the following time, Leng Ruoxue was like a spinning top, bringing a large group of people to wander around the various cities in the Divine Realm. Wherever they went, the guild masters of the mission guilds would not be able to avoid becoming their own people. Those who were tactful were accepted as Leng Ruoxue's subordinates, while those who were insensible became Li Zhong and the other servants. Everyone worked together and earned a lot of money. Soon, all the guilds that were responsible for quests on the godly continent had fallen. Every guild leader would be so depressed when they were first captured that they wanted to buy a piece of tofu and kill themselves. However, after they knew that they were not the only ones who were like this, they all felt balanced in their hearts and even formed feelings for each other. After all, in the future, when the master changed, they had to perform even better. From this, the chairman of Ing City's Mission Guild, President Pu, finally knew who the woman he was after was. Leng Ruoxue. It was actually the famous Leng Ruoxue. Why didn't he ask for her name in the first place? Otherwise, he would never have provoked that fiend. So, it was too late to say anything now. What's done is done. President Pu was filled with regret. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. No matter how much he regretted, it would be of no use. With a heart filled with grief and indignation, he decided to collect the appearance of all the experts in the divine realm that he couldn't afford to offend. He had offended Leng Ruoxue, and he was at a disadvantage because he didn't know her appearance. Actually, President Pu couldn't be blamed for being blind. After all, the Quest Association belonged to the Divine Master's residence. They would never have thought that the other party would set their sights on the Divine Master's residence. Moreover, Wu Chen wouldn't have instructed his subordinates to guard against Leng Ruoxue. If that was the case, Wouldn't it be him being afraid of Lung Ruoxue? The prideful fog would never do such a thing. Such a result naturally benefited Lung Ruoxue. Lung Ruoxue had earned quite a fortune on the divine mainland. In addition to the wealth she had obtained from the Alliance 3 and 4, she truly felt that robbing was a good way to get rich quickly. She even had the thought of setting up a bandit organization and robbing the entire divine realm. Of course, it was just a plan. She didn't have any thoughts of offending the entire divine realm. If people didn't offend her, she wouldn't offend them. This was still her principle in life. However, once he offended her, she would definitely be very petty and take revenge. After settling the matters on the divine mainland, Lung Ruoxue planned to bring them back to the divine world. At this moment, Li Zhong and the others finally realized that they wouldn't be living in the godly mainland. When they first heard this news, Li Zhong and the others were stunned for a long time. When they finally came back to their senses, they were all speechless and didn't know how to react. This matter was really too stimulating. Even Shuer had gone to the divine realm. It had only been a few years. However, Li Zhong and the others' mental fortitude wasn't bad. They quickly adjusted their mental state and looked at Lung Ruoxue as if she was their idol. Even Lung Ruoxue, who thought she was very thick-skinned, felt a little embarrassed. Chapter 2676. Does a puny divine emperor need my help? 3. In order to hide the awkwardness in her heart, Lung Ruoxue immediately moved everyone into her house. Then she and the mother parasol tree teleported to the transfer array to the god world. On the way, the mother parasol tree noticed the strange expression on Lung Ruoxue's face and could not help but ask curiously, "Shueo, what's wrong?" The alliance masters of the 5 alliances sent me a message. They said that the Ascender Alliance of the Divine Realm already knows what we have done. Lung Ruoxue replied calmly, "Oh, so what if he knew? What can they do to us?" The mother parasol tree said disapprovingly, "The powers that Shuer possessed were enough to contend against the Ascender Alliance. Therefore, they could do whatever they wanted in the divine realm. You can't do anything to us." Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly and followed the parasol tree into the teleportation formation. After a moment of dizziness, he arrived at the god realm. Just as Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree stepped out of the transmission array, they were surrounded by a group of fiendish-looking people before they could step out of the light circle. These people were made up of both men and women. Of course, men made up the majority. Furthermore, all of their faces were burning with anger. Their eyes were even spitting fire as they glared at Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue remained calm and said, "Is there something?" She pretended to be stupid as she asked, while observing the strength of these people. There were more than 100 deity emperors, and most of the others were at the deity king level. There were more than 1,000 of them in total. Lung Ruoxue, we've always minded our own business, but you actually attacked our Ascender Alliance. Is really too much. One of the deity emperors spoke as the representative of his side. My principle is that if others don't offend me, I won't offend them. Not only did your Ascender Alliance capture my brother and subordinates, but you also forced them to sign a slave contract. How can I not avenge them? Lung Ruoxue sneered as she questioned. The other emperor was speechless and couldn't help but argue, then you just have to kill the person responsible. Why did you destroy the 3rd and 4th alliances? Wild grass grows again when the spring breeze blows. Do you think I'll give them a chance to take revenge on me? Lung Ruoxue said in disdain. According to your logic, you still have to get rid of us? A certain emperor thought he had caught onto Lung Ruoxue's faulty wording. Lung Ruoxue smiled calmly and said, "Originally, I could treat the Ascender Alliance of the Divine Realm and the Ascender Alliance of the Divine Continent as 2 different things. However, if you all insist on coming to me to seek revenge, I don't have much of an opinion." Her casual and nonchalant attitude had thoroughly angered the Ascender Alliance. Even though they had long heard of Lung Ruoxue's strength, they had not had much contact with her in the firmament and naturally had not experienced it for themselves. Thus, none of them had expected that Lung Ruoxue would be even more arrogant than the legends had said. What an arrogant girl! Suddenly, an angry roar sounded in everyone's ears. Everyone couldn't help but turn around. When they saw that it was their vice president, they quickly said respectfully, "Greetings, Your Excellency Zhang Yi." After saying that, they automatically opened up a path for the furious man. This Zhang Miao was one of the vice presidents of the Ascender Alliance. He had just advanced to Reverend God level not long ago. This was the time when he was the most arrogant and proud of himself. Hence, he looked at Leng Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree with a strong sense of disdain. Originally, he had only come to support and encourage the Ascender Alliance. In his opinion, the Ascender Alliance had sent enough people to deal with a woman, so he had no intention of showing himself. However, after listening to Leng Ruoxue's words, the anger in his heart was completely aroused. In his eyes, this brat was someone who needed to be taught a lesson. Hence, he decided to personally take action and teach Leng Ruoxue a lesson. At the same time, he wanted to let her know that it was best for an Ascender who had just arrived not long ago to not go against the Ascender Alliance, even if she had the Ning family as her backing. Of course, he had no intention of killing Leng Ruoxue. After all, he knew that he could not afford to offend the Ning family, a native with a strong foundation. However, Leng Ruoxue was too infuriating, and he had to teach her a lesson. With such thoughts in mind, he looked at Leng Ruoxue with an unfriendly gaze. Today, they had to make Leng Ruoxue give the Ascender Alliance an explanation. Otherwise, wouldn't outsiders think that their Ascender Alliance was afraid of a little girl? However, Leng Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree were not surprised by the Reverend God's appearance because they had already noticed his existence. It was just that he did not show himself, so they were kind enough not to expose him. However, now that he had appeared, they obviously could not reject his good intentions. "Stinky girl, I will not let you off today." Seeing that the two beautiful women in the circle of light were still as calm as before, Zhang Miao became even more furious. However, the self-righteous him attributed this to the fact that the other party did not know his identity, or else he would not have dared to be so casual. "Thanks, I know." Leng Ruoxue nodded. The mother parasol tree did not even give him a look of pity. She thought to herself, "A little fellow who has just advanced to Reverend God level is here to show off in front of me. The world has really changed. Do you know who I am?" Seeing that the other party wasn't curious about his identity, Zhang Miao couldn't take it anymore and asked directly, "What does your identity have to do with me? I only need to know that you are a member of the Ascender Alliance." Leng Ruoxue said indifferently, clearly uninterested in his identity, "I am the vice president of the Ascender Alliance." Zhang Yi was furious. Seeing that Leng Ruoxue wasn't the least bit curious about him, he could only expose himself. However, after he said this, Leng Ruoxue still gave him face and didn't let him down. She looked at him and sighed softly before saying, "You just became the vice president, right?" How did you know? I thought you didn't know who I was?" Zhang Miao looked at Leng Ruoxue with a face full of questions. "I can tell just by looking at you. If you're not a new official, how can you be so angry? Calm down. Don't be impatient, I'll do whatever you want." Leng Ruoxue was all smiles as she spoke in an extremely understanding manner. When the parasol tree heard Leng Ruoxue's words, it could not help but burst out laughing. Instantly, Zhang Miao's old face turned red. Even though he was a little high profile, he wasn't a fool. How could he not tell that the woman beside Leng Ruoxue was laughing at him? In an instant, his anger surged and he fired at the mother parasol tree. "What are you laughing at? You'll be crying soon." "I see. Then let's not waste everyone's time, let's do it." The mother parasol tree rubbed her fists in anticipation. She had not had a good battle for a long time and was in fact a violent person. Now that she had a supreme god as her opponent, she was naturally more than happy to have him. Although this reverent god was a little stupid, it was better than nothing. Her straightforward attitude of wanting to start a fight stunned Zhang Yi. It looked like the other party was not just arrogant. He was a reverent god. However, the woman before him was only a god king, clearly inferior to him. The contrast made him feel a little lost. Why was this so? Didn't they know that he was a reverent god? The more he thought about it, the more Zhang Miao felt that this was possible. However, this thought also made him feel a lot more at ease. At least in his eyes, the woman in front of him was an arrow at the end of its flight. In reality, it was normal for him to not be able to see through the mother parasol tree's abilities. That was because the mother parasol tree had learned from Shuer when they were in the divinity and had hidden her abilities very well. Now that the other party could not see through it, she would naturally not reveal it on her own accord. Vice President Zhang, are we going to fight? The mother parasol tree saw that Zhang Yi was in a daze for a long time, not knowing what he was thinking about, so it had to ask again. I will make you regret being so arrogant. In the face of provocation, as a man, Zhang Miao naturally would not let a woman look down on him. Moreover, he had just advanced to Reverend God level and was in high spirits, so he had to maintain his lofty image and set a good example for his subordinates. Therefore he took the blow. After being provoked like this, if he could still hold it in, was he still a man? The battle between the two of them started at once. When Leng Ruoxue saw this, she quickly took advantage of the gap between the two of them before they started fighting to ask, "You guys have found a good opponent. Then what about me?" She also wanted to spar with this godly venerable rank vice president, okay? It was a pity that the mother parasol tree, who had not had enough fun in the godly mainland, did not want to give her a chance. So, isn't this bullying? Leng Ruoxue was rather worried about this. After hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, the mother parasol tree pretended to be dumb and did not say a word. Zhang Miao, on the other hand, said arrogantly, "You will naturally be taught a lesson by my subordinates. Does a puny divine emperor need my help?" All right. She knew that she was being looked down upon. Although she really wanted to say that the mother parasol tree's strength seemed to be inferior to her on the surface, she still felt a little embarrassed. However, she gave up after thinking about it. Since someone was seeking death, why should she be kind? The mother parasol tree gave Leng Ruoxue an apologetic look before she started her lightning-like attack. She and Zhang Miao quickly engaged in battle. In order not to be affected by the Reverend God level battle, both the Ascender Alliance and Leng Ruoxue had a tacit understanding to give up their positions, while they all retreated to a relatively wide area on the other side. Glancing at the battle not far away, Leng Ruoxue tried her best to shift the attention of the Ascender Alliance's members from the battle to her. "Since a battle is unavoidable, let's not waste any more time," she said. Chapter 2677, Not Using Divine Power Doesn't Count as a Win, 1. After hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, the Ascender Alliance's people who were originally watching the show could not help but chuckle. Leng Ruoxue was puzzled when she heard that. What was the meaning of their wretched laughter? Was he looking down on her? At this moment, the Emperor God, who represented the Ascendants, answered her question. "Leng Ruoxue, although I've heard that you're quite powerful, there's no need for all of us to go all out to deal with you. Just me alone is enough." The Emperor who spoke had the air of an expert. As he spoke, he deliberately looked down at Leng Ruoxue, putting on a high and mighty attitude. The meaning expressed by his red eyes was clear. He didn't care about Leng Ruoxue at all. In his heart, he really didn't take Leng Ruoxue seriously. Even though there were many rumors about how powerful Leng Ruoxue was, it was still a false rumor. Without seeing it with their own eyes, the feeling would always be worse. Furthermore, the Emperor God's position in the Ascender Alliance was not low. He was also the leader of the three alliances of the Ascender Alliance. The father and daughter of the three alliances' leader, who had been killed by Leng Ruoxue, were close friends with him. Thus, when he saw Leng Ruoxue, it was as if he was meeting his enemy. He was extremely envious. This was especially so in front of so many people from the Ascender Alliance. A certain divine emperor, who wanted to perform well, hoped to use Leng Ruoxue to establish his might. One must know that after Zhang Miao was promoted to the Ascender Alliance's vice president, his position as an elder had been left empty. He had been coveting that position for a long time, and even regarded it as something in his pocket. If he could make a big splash in the limelight during Leng Ruoxue's incident, then the empty position of an elder would basically not be able to escape. This time, It was his and the four alliance masters' idea to gather the people to teach Leng Ruoxue a lesson. He knew that the leaders of the four alliances also had their eyes on that position. Hence, according to his plan, they had to deal with the famous Leng Ruoxue first. After all, making the first move meant that they had the upper hand. Otherwise, wouldn't it be equivalent to giving such a good opportunity to others? He also wanted to let everyone see how Leng Ruoxue, who was unparalleled in the firmament and whose name was like thunder to everyone, would be defeated by him. She was just a woman. No matter how powerful she was, how powerful could she be? This wasn't just his inner voice. Many people in the Ascender Alliance basically thought the same. This included his competitors. After he said that he wanted to deal with Leng Ruoxue, the other Divine Emperor interrupted anxiously, "How can we do that? Leng Ruoxue is our common enemy. How can you let yourself get away with it?" Needless to say, the one who spoke was the leader of the four alliances. However, after he expressed his thoughts, the Emperor God from before calmly said, "Why are you so anxious? You'll have your chance. I'm the leader of the three alliances, and am ranked before you, so it's only natural that I should make the first move." These words seemed so reasonable that no one could refute them, but the leader of the four alliances was enraged. He was so angry that he couldn't stop cursing in his heart. "You made the first move, so how could I still have a chance?" He also felt that Leng Ruoxue shouldn't be hard to deal with, so he wouldn't be willing to let his archenemy make the first move. After the other party made a move, it meant that his chance to perform was taken away. Now was the crucial period for the competition to become an elder of the General Alliance. How could he let go of such a good opportunity? Therefore, avenging the 3 and 4 alliances of the godly mainland was pure nonsense. In their hearts, revenge was important, but it was nothing compared to becoming an elder of the General Union. Now, their priority was to fight for Leng Ruoxue's right to fight. Before the battle had even begun, the Ascender Alliance had already begun to stir up trouble. Most of the Ascender Alliances, people present were from the 3rd and 4th Alliances. A small number of them were foreign aid they had invited to help in the battle. The people from the 3rd and 4th Alliances were clear about their alliance master's thoughts and naturally sided with him. Hence, while the 3 and 4 Alliances leaders were in a heated argument to deal with Leng Ruoxue, the other members of the 3 and 4 Alliances were also in a heated battle. The first was a scolding battle. All kinds of curses spewed out from the mouths of both sides, and spittle flew everywhere. The faces of those who participated in the curse battle were all red, fully displaying their excited mood at this time. Then, the scolding battle escalated to a fight. Even before they started fighting with Leng Ruoxue, the Ascender Alliance's internal department had already started fighting fiercely. There was even blood. Thanks Leng Ruoxue, who was watching from the side, as well as Li Zhong and the others who witnessed this from their house, were all dumbfounded and in disbelief when they saw this dramatic scene. What was going on? Leng Ruoxue looked on in a daze. She could not help but wipe the cold sweat off her forehead. Of course, she was not frightened by the other party's vicious methods, but, you understand. She turned to look at the mother parasol tree and Zhang Miao who were still fighting, and then turned back to look at the two sides who were in a chaotic battle. She deeply felt that compared to the normal battle at the mother parasol tree's side, what was happening in front of her was simply a farce. Didn't he want to fight her? Why can they kill each other? When both sides of the chaotic battle had already used their weapons, Leng Ruoxue was drenched in sweat. How deep was the enmity between the two alliances? Blinking her eyes, Leng Ruoxue looked innocently at the people on both sides of the chaotic battle falling into a pool of blood before she decisively called for a stop. In fact, it wasn't that she was too kind. It was just that both sides had lost their minds. Even a small number of onlookers had joined the chaotic battle to help their friends. Many people had been injured. If she didn't call for a stop, she would probably be out of the picture later. This can't do. She couldn't be an audience member for nothing. All of you stop. Leng Ruoxue shouted with a sense of justice. Instantly, not only did both sides stop fighting, even the mother parasol tree and Zhang Miao, who heard the commotion, stopped instinctively. Even though the two of them did not know why Leng Ruoxue had asked them to stop, When they saw the scene not far away, their expressions were exactly the same as Lung Ruoshue's. Schwer, the mother parasol tree called out softly. She did not know what to say. You bunch of idiots. Zhang Miao, on the other hand, was extremely furious and directly shouted at the top of his lungs. Senior, I didn't ask you to stop. Please continue. Please continue. Lung Ruoshue turned around in embarrassment when she heard their voices. Alright, but be careful. Swords have no eyes. Don't get caught up in their battle. The mother parasol tree warned worriedly. Her words were clearly adding fuel to the fire, making Zhang Miao almost explode with anger. However, before Zhang Miao could do anything, the mother parasol tree's attack had already reached him, forcing him to fight with 120,000% of his energy. You bastard! How could this woman be so powerful? Zhang Miao was very depressed. But the battle continued. On Lung Ruoxu's side. Chapter 2678. Not using divine power doesn't count as a win, too. It was only after the crowd was called to a halt that they realized what had happened. To be honest, they didn't expect the battle to escalate. They only deeply regretted it after the battle. He had actually forgotten the important matter. Not only that, they even let Lung Ruoshue watch the show and laugh at them. The most infuriating thing was that their battle had been called to a stop, and it was all thanks to Lung Ruoshue that they were able to avoid a major disaster. In an instant, everyone's hearts were filled with all kinds of gloominess and entanglement. He had never felt this way before, and it was unbearable. Everyone's face turned even redder. Lung Ruoshue blinked her eyes and put on an innocent smile. What's wrong? Why are you fighting? Your face is as red as a monkey's butt. After she finished speaking, she even deliberately covered her mouth to laugh, making everyone so angry that one Buddha was born and two Buddhas rose to heaven. All of them seemed to be so angry that smoke was about to come out of their bodies. After she was done laughing, she said guiltily, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have laughed at you. But I still want to say that killing each other is the worst thing to do. It will affect unity. You bastard! Who's killing each other? The leader of the four alliances, who had a bad temper, was the first to speak up. You don't have any? The evidence was still on him. You can't lie with your eyes open. Lung Ruoxu's expression became even more innocent. After hearing what she said, the alliance masters of the four alliances felt their electricity run out. They could only glare at Lung Ruoshue with a face full of hatred. Their gazes were like those of a venomous snake, causing one to tremble in fear. Lung Ruoshue was glared at like a venomous snake, but her face did not turn red and her heart did not skip a beat. She merely glanced at the other party indifferently and asked, Be a good baby, understand? Come, now tell big sister, why did you kill each other? These words made everyone speechless. The gloominess in their hearts deepened, especially when they saw the other party calling herself big sister. Did she have to be so shameless? Whose sister are you? Who has a sister like you who gloats at others' misfortune? Everyone couldn't help but secretly praise him. Little girl, have you seen enough? Don't waste any more time, I'm going to deal with you now. The leader of the three alliances roared. It was too embarrassing. He had never been so embarrassed in his life, especially in front of his opponent. Hearing this, Lung Ruoshue smiled faintly and said in a wrong tone, I don't think I'm the one wasting time. Good. It's me. It's us, alright. Let's start fighting now. The alliance masters of the three alliances were furious and roared. Lung Ruoshue nodded her head in satisfaction. Come on. However, Alliance Master 4 was not satisfied. Seeing that the two were about to attack, he quickly stopped them and said angrily, Why should I let you go first? I'm going to make the first move. Do you still want the other party to laugh at us? The alliance master of the third alliance gritted his teeth. He had just realized that the alliance master of the fourth alliance was even more shameless than him. Hearing this, although the four alliances' leaders hesitated, they still straightened their necks and shouted, I don't care, I'm going to make the first move. Don't snatch. There's still a chance. It doesn't matter who makes the first move. Lung Ruoxue smiled and became the peacemaker. When the alliance masters of the three alliances heard this, their faces darkened. Thanks fuck. What the hell is this? The two of them were fighting for the right to make the first move, but the other party became the good guy. At this moment, he had never felt so depressed before. They'll let you make the first move, all right? The alliance masters of the three alliances had surrendered. If they continued to argue with this idiot, the Ascender Alliance would lose all its face before the fight even started. It could be said that compared to the four alliance masters, he still had some brains and had not completely lost his mind. Otherwise, he would not have been able to become the alliance master of the third alliance and forcibly suppress the four alliance masters. As for the fourth alliance master, who had been holding back for a long time, when he heard that the third alliance master had given in, he was like a rooster who had won a battle, holding his head high and gnashing his teeth in hatred. Little girl, your opponent is me. The leaders of the four alliances emphasized this before the battle. I know. In fact, you guys can attack together. Lung Ruoxue suddenly suggested. No. Two opposing voices rang out at the same time. Lung Ruoxue was puzzled. Why not? Wouldn't they have a better chance of winning if they attacked together? How could she know that the two in front of her were treating her as a stepping stone to climb up the ladder and wanted to step on her to get to the top? Then, let's do it one by one. Seeing that she couldn't figure it out, Lung Ruoxue didn't want to. Originally, she had wanted to let her babies out to practice their claws, but since the other party wanted to come one by one, it seemed that they didn't need to show themselves. However, her precious little beasts were very smart. After they sensed Lung Ruoxue's thoughts, they transmitted their voices to her and begged, Master, let us go out and join in the fun. We promise we won't use our claws. Well, just watch the battle up close and feel the atmosphere. Alright. Lung Ruoxue was speechless. Trying to feel the atmosphere? To think they could come up with such an excuse. However, since her own beast had a request as its master, she naturally had to do her best to satisfy it. Thus, with a thought, a few little beasts were moved out. After thinking about it, Li Zhong and the others were also moved out. Let's just experience the atmosphere of the venue together. Lung Ruoxue's movements when she moved everyone out of the house were extremely smooth. However, when the Ascender Alliance members saw so many people suddenly appear beside her, they were all stunned. Although the other party didn't have many people, it was enough to make them dumbfounded. Because they had no idea where these people had come from. They're my godbrother and my subordinates. I didn't ask them to come out to fight with you. I just wanted them to experience the divine realm. They're not going to join the battle. Seeing that the other party was very surprised, Lung Ruoxue was afraid that they would misunderstand, so she quickly explained. Li Zhong was even more cooperative as he echoed, well, only watch. We won't participate in the battle. Although he said that, he couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. Could he say that it was also very dangerous for them to watch the battle? In the mobile house just now, their darling, that quick-tongued little fellow, had already told them about the strength of these people. They were all existences that they could not catch up with even if they tried to, and they had to look up to. Although it was very rare for them to watch a battle between experts up close with their strength, when this rare action was accompanied by danger, they didn't feel so good. However, it was hard to get off after riding a tiger, and they couldn't let Xue Er's name be tarnished. Now that things had come to this, they had to continue watching. With this thought in mind, although Li Zhong and the others were somewhat worried, they didn't show it on their faces. After hearing their explanation, the four alliance masters couldn't help but ask, where did they come from? They've been staying in my house. Lung Ruoxue spoke bluntly and didn't hide anything at all. When Li Zhong and the rest saw that she had exposed this big secret, they were all extremely worried. Sure enough, after listening to the story, the eyes of the third and fourth alliance masters simultaneously shot out a green light of greed. Chapter 2679. Not using divine power doesn't count as a win. 3. A portable house. That was something that only existed in legends. Not to mention how difficult it was to gather the materials to refine this item, there were very few artifact masters who could refine such a high-end item. However, when they thought of Lung Ruox's relationship with the few people from the Armament Guild headquarters, they understood. Needless to say, those few people must have given her this. After understanding the relationship between the two, everyone in the Ascender Alliance was filled with envy and jealousy. It was indeed different to have someone backing you up. Look at how she was doing. When they thought about themselves, the Ascender Alliance's members instantly felt inferior and wished they could hide in a crack in the ground. However, at the same time, Alliance Master 3 and Alliance Master 4 had greedily set their eyes on Lung Ruox's house. As long as he could defeat Lung Ruoxue, she wouldn't dare to not hand over that item. The two of them thought happily in their hearts. Little did they know that Lung Ruoxue had already seen through their thoughts. She had also deliberately exposed the existence of her portable house. After all, in the immortal realm, the fact that she had a portable house was no longer a secret. Although it had not been spread to everyone, at least some of the top families knew about it. More importantly, with the portable house as bait, she believed that the two would do their best. After instructing her precious little beasts to protect Li Zhong and the others and find a safe place, Lung Ruoxue beckoned with her finger. "Come, let's start fighting. You brat, I'll let you know why flowers are so red today." The four Alliance Masters shouted, and their weapons flashed in their hands as they attacked. His weapon was a saber. The blade was sharp, but the blade was only a foot long. After he held the weapon in his hand, he stretched his hand forward and a fierce and terrifying cold light was released along the blade. The cold light was as fast as lightning and as thin as a hair. The pressure it contained made Li Zhong and the others, who were in a safe place, feel fear. This person was so strong. If it wasn't for the fact that the treasure had given them enough comfort and told them that these people were no match for their master, they would have been worried to death. And Baby was right. This was because just as they were sighing about how powerful their enemy was, in the blink of an eye, the cold glint that the enemy had released was knocked to the ground by Lung Ruox's fire attribute divine power. It was Shen power. Without even using a divine skill, his opponent's first move had lost its effect. Shui is so powerful. Good luck. When the overly excited Li Zhong saw this, he couldn't help but take the lead and shout. Lung Ruoxue smiled and waved at them, indicating that she had received it. Baby was even more excited to take on the role of a commentator. He turned to Li Zhong and the others and said, "My cute master is going to kill the other party. Everyone, open your eyes and look carefully. Let's see how master kills the enemy." Its words almost made the four Alliance Masters' noses crooked. What did he mean by Lung Ruoxue almost killed the enemy? Even though he didn't want to take this as a personal matter, it was obvious that the enemy this annoying fox was talking about was him. It was too obvious. He couldn't even lie to himself. However, before he could flare up, Lung Ruox's body leaped into the air and transformed into a stream of light, charging towards him at high speed. When she was less than a meter away from him, Lung Ruoxue decisively kicked out. Her foot landed right on the stomach of the Alliance Master 4. In an instant, the pitiful Alliance Master 4, who had yet to figure out the situation, was sent flying like a ball. With a loud bang, the four Alliance Masters crashed into a giant tree not far away and fainted. His body then slid freely to the ground. Master has won. Upon seeing this, the precious little beasts cried out in joy. However, everyone, including Li Zhong and the Ascender Alliance, couldn't laugh. Li Zhong and the others didn't expect Shui to be so strong. She didn't even use any divine skills, and sent the other party flying with a single kick. This was really too amazing. Li Zhong and the others, whose reactions were obviously slower by half a beat, were stunned for a moment before they immediately revealed their starry eyes and stared at Lung Ruoxue with fiery gazes. As for the people of the Ascender Alliance, they were a little dumbfounded by this scene. Could this be considered a victory? If they didn't count in the other party's victory, how would they calculate the result when their four Alliance Masters fainted? They could not understand. Then, everyone turned to look at the third Alliance Master. Other than Vice President Zhang Miao, he was the one with the highest status. And it was obvious that Vice President Zhang Miao did not have the time to deal with this. The Ascender Alliance's third Alliance Master, who was furious at the anticipation in the eyes of the Ascender Alliance's members, also knew that he couldn't just keep quiet at this time. Therefore, he could only brace himself and say, "How can this be considered your master's victory? She didn't use any divine power at all. Not using Shen power doesn't count as a win." Leng Ruoxue blinked her eyes in disbelief. Thanks originally, she didn't have any thoughts of offending the Ascender Alliance too much. Therefore, she had shown mercy by kicking them directly. However, the other party didn't appreciate it. As such, she could only reluctantly accept it. However, in order to confirm the other party's thoughts, she still kindly asked again, "Is it really not considered my win if I don't use my godly skill?" "Of course not," the Third Alliance Master said as he endured the pressure. The dignified Fourth Alliance Master of the Ascender Alliance was defeated by an opponent in one move. If such a matter were to spread, it would definitely damage the image of their Ascender Alliance. Therefore, he was bound to hold on to this point. No matter what, they couldn't let Leng Ruoxue win. Otherwise, where would they put their face? "Do you really want me to use my divine power to count?" Leng Ruoxue still had to confirm. "That's right. You have to use Shen power, otherwise it cannot be considered your win." The Third Alliance Master's anger rose a little after hearing the other party's repeated confirmation. "Do you all think the same way?" Leng Ruoxue then turned her beautiful eyes to the other members of the Ascender Alliance, similarly confirming it. Under Leng Ruoxue's interrogation, the Ascender Alliance could only say stubbornly in order to not weaken the Ascender Alliance's momentum, "Yes. You have to use Shen power, or else it will be hard to convince the masses." "All right then. You asked me to do this," Leng Ruoxue said helplessly. Then, she turned her beautiful eyes to the side of her baby and asked, "Baby, did you record what they said?" "Hee hee. Don't worry, cute master. I've recorded everything they said." Baby laughed evilly and showed him a small piece of memory crystal in his claws. "What does this mean? Were they afraid that they would go back on their word?" The Ascender Alliance's members' mouths twitched, and their foreheads were filled with black lines. They could not understand Leng Ruoxue's actions. But he believed that it wouldn't take long for them to understand. In the next moment, a small flame suddenly appeared on Leng Ruoxue's fair and delicate fingertips. The purple flame with a tinge of red first circled around her fingers a few times before it floated away from her beautiful snow-white fingers and flew towards the four Alliance Masters. Everyone present watched this scene intently, not knowing what use this small divine power flame could have. This was especially true in the eyes of the Ascender Alliance's members. This small amount of divine power that had condensed into a flame was simply not of any great use. "Stinky girl, don't tell me you only have this much Shen power." The Third Alliance Master laughed wildly when he saw this. With him taking the lead, the Ascender Alliance's side instantly burst into laughter. "This amount of flame is enough," Leng Ruoxue said with a half-smile. "Oh really? Then I'll have to wait and see." The Third Alliance Master laughed so hard that he was out of breath, and his chest heaved up and down because of his unrestrained laughter. But very quickly he was dumbfounded. While he was laughing, the small flame slowly flew to the four Alliance Masters and landed on him. In an instant, the four Alliance Masters' bodies were ablaze with flames that soared into the sky, and the temperature of the scene suddenly rose. At this moment, everyone realized that although the flame was small, it was not simple. In just a few seconds, the flames on the four Alliance Masters' bodies quickly shrank again, but the four Alliance Masters who had been enveloped in flames just a moment ago had disappeared without a trace. Everyone was petrified. Where did the four Alliance Masters go? The people in the Ascender Alliance who had witnessed this scene could not help but make wild guesses. However, they were all self-deceiving and unwilling to believe this fact. That was impossible. It was impossible for such a powerful flame to exist. The other party must have used some method to hide the four Alliance Masters. The moment the Third Alliance Master thought of this, he glared at Leng Ruoxue and said, "Stinky girl, where did you take the four Alliance Masters? Quickly hand over the four Alliance Masters. Otherwise, our Ascender Alliance will not let you off." Lung Ruoxue was speechless when she saw the Third Alliance Master's righteous indignation. The two of them had just been arguing and even fighting, so why did they suddenly share a common enemy? In fact, it wasn't hard to understand what the three Alliance Masters were thinking. He had to admit that the other party's flames were powerful, and then what? What should he do? The arrow was already on the string. Could it be pulled back? If Lung Ruoxue was that terrifying, would the other party allow him to back out? He had no choice but to lie to himself. Your 4 Alliance Masters are dead. Lung Ruoxue replied indifferently. She did not take the Alliance Master's threat seriously. After all, he was the one who had requested for her to use her divine power. She could not be blamed. She was just killing the chicken to warn the monkey. It was just that the monkey was unlucky and didn't have time to leave any last words. This is impossible. The Third Alliance Master shouted with a trembling heart. If you don't believe me, you can experience it for yourself. How about it? Do you want to try? Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. It seemed that one could not be a good person. She was such an honest child, but he didn't believe her. Such an outcome made Lung Ruoxue feel a little hurt. The moment he heard that Lung Ruoxue wanted him to experience it, the Third Alliance Master's face turned pale and his heart started to beat wildly. What a fucking experience! Did he dare to experience it? If he really experienced it, what would he do if he died? Seeing the unpredictable expression on the Third Alliance Master's face, Lung Ruoxue said in disappointment, "AI. I knew you wouldn't have the guts." Nonsense, who says I don't have the guts? After Lung Ruoxue's provocation, the Third Alliance Master's anger rose again. Then you can try. As soon as Lung Ruoxue finished speaking, the little flame that had been floating in the air waiting for the next instruction flew towards the direction of the Third Alliance Master, who wanted to experience it in a carefree and happy manner. Chapter 2680. Prepare to wipe them out in one go. 1. The Third Alliance Master's face turned pale as he looked at the little flame that was approaching him. His legs started to tremble, but he still held on to his dignity. However, his trembling legs revealed the nervousness in his heart. He was so angry that he wanted to curse. What the hell was this? Was he threatening him? The Third Alliance Master hated the situation in front of him to death, especially when he saw the floating little flame slowly approaching him without any hurry, as if it was playing with him. He was really anxious and angry. However, as the leader of the 3 alliances and the future elder of the General Alliance, he would not allow himself to drop the ball. Therefore, no matter how afraid he was, he had to hold on. The little flame seemed to have sensed his thoughts. With a whoosh, it floated in front of the Third Alliance Master and looked him in the eye. The small flame was right in front of the Third Alliance Master's eyes, and his heart instantly jumped to his throat. He stared at the flame in his sight without blinking. He didn't understand what the flame was trying to do. Was he going to stare at him? However, his little heart was beating wildly, and cold sweat gradually slid down his forehead. The huge mental pressure caused the 3 Alliance Masters to open their mouths, but they couldn't form a complete sentence. He was so anxious that he wanted to cry. What should he do? At such a close distance, he could clearly feel the heat from the little flame's body. It was hot. It was so hot. After looking at each other for a long time and seeing that the little flame in front of him didn't do anything, the Alliance Master of the 3 alliances felt a little relieved. He took a few deep breaths and then gathered his courage to say, "Go! Go away! Get away from me!" Hearing this, the little flame seemed to twist its body and turned around in a circle before floating back to its original position and continued to stare at the Third Alliance Master. The Third Alliance Master was dumbfounded. What was this thing trying to do? He could not understand what the little flame was trying to say, but he could clearly feel that the little flame was waiting for something. The little flame trembled and suddenly grew a little higher, turning the Third Alliance Master's face red. The Third Alliance Master was so scared that his face turned even paler. Then, he clearly felt an unbearable heat coming at him. In an instant, the small flame reached the Third Alliance Master's body and instantly burned into a huge fire that was half the height of a person, enveloping the Third Alliance Master. It was hot. The endless heat made the Third Alliance Master's body unbearably hot. He felt as if he was in a sea of fire, and the heat waves that covered the sky seemed to be about to burn him. After a short while, the Third Alliance Master's painful screams came from the flames. "Help, help!" When the Flame and the three Alliance Masters were staring at each other, the Ascender Alliance's members were so scared that they took a few steps back and kept their distance from the Flame's sphere of influence. At this moment, they saw the Third Alliance Master being enveloped in a scorching flame that was half the height of a man and even letting out an extremely painful howl. They were so frightened that their faces turned pale, and their bodies trembled like fallen leaves in the autumn wind. Those who were less courageous could not withstand the terrifying mental pressure and fainted. After a while, Lung Ruoxue saw that it was about time. She used her mind to summon the little flame away from the Third Alliance Master. At this moment, the Third Alliance Master was just standing there in a daze. Other than his entire body turning black, he did not suffer any major injuries. However, the pain in his heart was definitely not small. He believed that he would never want to experience what he had experienced in his life again. "Third Alliance Master, how do you feel? I've been merciful to you. Otherwise, you'll end up like the four Alliance Masters." Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly. When the Third Alliance Master heard this, he didn't know how to react. He moved his stiff body and opened his mouth, but he couldn't say a word. He continued to stand there in a daze, making it impossible to know what he was thinking. Thanks after a long time. Only then did the Third Alliance Master let out a wail, squatted on the ground, and started crying. The cry was so miserable that it was simply unbearable, as if he had suffered some great grievance or lost a loved one. It was enough to describe it as tragic. When the Ascender Alliance saw this scene, their hearts were filled with complicated emotions. Although they could not empathize with him, they understood that the Third Alliance Master was definitely frightened. On the side, Li Zhong and the others saw a man squatting on the ground and wailing without any care for his image. Black lines were hanging on his forehead, and he was sweating profusely. In addition, they also sympathized with the other party. Look at how scared they were. They hadn't even officially fought yet. She abandoned her image and started crying. He was really pitiful. However, when the Third Alliance Master cried like this, the little flame, who continued to wait at the side, kindly let him go and targeted the others. The Ascender Alliance members were instantly frightened and wanted to run away. However, before they could do so, they found that they were so scared that their legs had turned soft and they could not move. What should I do? The Ascender Alliance members trembled in the wind, while the little flame was jumping and cheering excitedly. Now, it was only waiting for its master's order to act. When Lung Ruoxue saw this, she broke out in a cold sweat for her little flame, who was becoming more and more intelligent. One had to know that she had no intention of annihilating all of these people at the moment. However, it was not a bad idea to scare them a little. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxue revealed a devilish smile and said calmly, "As the saying goes, we share good fortune and misfortune together. Since the three Alliance Masters have already experienced the power of my flames, how about you all experience it too? Don't worry, I won't let you end up like the four Alliance Masters." But they didn't want to experience it either. After hearing Lung Ruoxue's comforting words, the Ascender Alliance did not let go of their fear. Instead, they became even more afraid. Moreover, was this considered comforting? Would they be happy if they didn't end up like the four Alliance Masters? So, even if they were only asked to be like the Third Alliance Master, they were not willing to. It was too embarrassing, wasn't it? The crowd was filled with grief and indignation, but they did not know how to refute Lung Ruoxue's words. Or rather, they did not have the confidence to convince this demoness to let them off. The facts proved that their thinking was right. From Lung Ruoxue's point of view, since these people dared to gather to seek revenge on her, they must have been prepared to enjoy any consequences. One must know that she was never a soft persimmon. Now she, who wasn't a pushover, was about to counterattack. Looking at everyone's pale little faces, Lung Ruoxue's smile became even more charming. At the same time, The little flame, who had received some kind of hint, also happily floated towards the place with the most people in the Ascender Alliance. In an instant, the flames once again burned fiercely. Almost everyone in the Ascender Alliance was surrounded by flames. A few fish that escaped the net were even kicked into the sea of flames by a few idle baby beasts to enjoy themselves. In an instant, a painful howl suddenly sounded. It scared Li Zhong and the others so much that they trembled, and their hearts also started to beat wildly. Chapter 2681. Prepare to wipe them out in one go, too. At this time, they deeply sympathized with the Ascender Alliance. Xuera was really too valiant. He was their idol. Wretched girl, what are you doing? Suddenly, Zhang Miao, who had accidentally caught a glimpse of this scene, shouted at the top of his lungs in anger. However, Leng Ruoxue ignored his roar. Anyway, that fellow was being restrained by the mother parasol tree. It was basically impossible to come over and save her. But this time Leng Ruoxue was wrong. After Zhang Miao thought of a way to shake off the mother parasol tree, he teleported to Leng Ruoxue's side and attacked her furiously. When Leng Ruoxue felt a cold and threatening air current coming towards her, she calmly blinked her eyes and used her bare hands to block the opponent's attack. Seeing this, Zhang Miao's anger rose. Damn girl, you do have some skills. Zhang Miao shouted in disbelief. He had never thought that a puny divine emperor could actually block his attack. The second wave of attacks came one after another, but Leng Ruoxue blocked them calmly. In between the attacks, she even smiled and replied, "Thank you for the compliment, but it's mainly because your strength is too low." These words made Zhang Miao's anger instantly rise. His attacks were much fiercer. Bullying a little girl, what kind of skill are you? Little guy, I'm your opponent. Don't get it wrong. The mother parasol tree stood in front of Leng Ruoxue and blocked Zhang Miao's subsequent attack. Zhang Miao was so angry that his face turned red and his temper flared up. However, this time, it would not be so easy for him to escape from the mother parasol tree. Leng Ruoxue sighed with regret. Seeing that it was about time, she ordered the little flame to retreat. The retreating little flame was obviously not done playing around as it circled around Leng Ruoxue and acted coquettishly. At this moment, the sound of crying could be heard. Leng Ruoxue turned around and saw that everyone from the Ascender Alliance was just like the three Alliance Masters. They were all squatting on the ground and wailing. The scene was so spectacular that it simply made people gasp in amazement. Oh woo! Suddenly, another sharp howl was heard, and it instantly attracted everyone's attention. Even the people of the Ascender Alliance who were crying were so shocked by this sound that they forgot to cry. Everyone looked up at the same time and saw the scene of Zhang Miao being tortured by the mother parasol tree. At this moment, Zhang Miao had been tied up by the mother parasol tree with vines and was hanging upside down on the tree. The mother parasol tree, dressed in red, was holding an emerald green whip woven from vines, which was hitting Zhang Miao's body again and again. As it fought, the mother parasol tree roared, "Damn it! Who told you to run away?" The parasol tree mother tree was referring to the incident where Zhang Miao had escaped from her to attack Xue. This matter made her quite angry. Therefore she, who didn't intend to be heavy-handed, was completely enraged. Some people just won't be good if they're not beaten. The mother parasol tree decided to help the Ascender Alliance teach the vice president a lesson so that he would not forget to think that he could provoke anyone. Thanks What was the Ascender Alliance? When she was still around, the Ascender Alliance's master had not even been born yet. One must know that the mother parasol tree's seniority in the firmament was not low. Perhaps she could not be compared to Wu Xiao, but in front of these little fellows from the Ascender Alliance, she was definitely a high and mighty existence. Therefore, she decided to let these people know what seniority was. What was respect for the elders? Otherwise, if these little guys came to find trouble with them one by one, she might find it interesting once or twice, but after a long time, she would become numb. And now, the vice president of the Ascender Alliance was the first person she wanted to intimidate. Zhang Miao, who had stood out, was both indignant and helpless. He had never dreamed that he would be taught a lesson by a woman even though he was already a supreme god. After all, there were not many female supreme gods in the firmament, and most of them belonged to the magical beasts. Therefore, he had never thought that the mother parasol tree would be so difficult to deal with. It was fine that he was not a match for it, but his strength was not as good as it was. But now, he had been beaten up like this. How could he face others in the future? Zhang Miao, who was quite worried in his heart, felt extremely painful all over. However, the fact that he had been beaten up made the people of the Ascender Alliance feel balanced in their hearts. The vice president had been beaten up, so the treatment they had received seemed to be nothing. With this thought, some of the people who were still considered strong-minded calmed down. However, the way they looked at Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree was as if they were looking at two mad women. These two women were too scary. So, the divine realm is so unsafe. Could they return to the lower realm if they wanted to? For a time, the Ascender Alliance could not help but have such a thought. However, it was clearly impossible for them to leave so easily. After observing Zhang Miao, who was being whipped by the mother parasol tree, Lung Ruoxue turned her beautiful eyes back to the Ascender Alliance. "How should I deal with you?" Lung Ruoxue muttered to herself. Upon hearing this, the hearts of the Ascender Alliance's members trembled again. "Cute master, cut them all?" Baby suggested loudly. "Can I not have it? No one wanted to die." "That's a good idea." Alliance Master 3, you said before that not using divine power doesn't count as a win, right? I'll use my Shen power now. Let's continue our battle. Lung Ruoxue suggested with a smile. Continue Mies. If they really fought, he would probably lose his life. The third Alliance Master was slightly worried, but he forced an ugly smile and said, "Let's not fight anymore, you win." "No!" Lung Ruoxue was strongly opposed to this kind of situation where they won without a fight. Such a thing didn't give them any sense of accomplishment. The third Alliance Master swallowed his saliva and was speechless. "What do you want?" After a long time, the third Alliance Master saw that the other party didn't speak and only stared at him with her beautiful eyes. This made him feel quite pressured, so he braced himself and asked, "Fight." Lung Ruoxue spat out a single word. The third Alliance Master's expression changed like a palette, and then he revealed a constipated expression. "Can I not fight?" He was really afraid. "Of course not. Don't forget what you said before. You said that you can deal with me and that you will avenge the 3 and 4 alliances I killed." "I hate it when people lie to me," Lung Ruoxue said in an unpleasant tone. He was wrong. He was really wrong. He shouldn't have come to seek revenge from Lung Ruoxue. He should have believed the rumors about Lung Ruoxue. Those rumors definitely didn't exaggerate her matters. Instead, it made the third Alliance Master think that they had exaggerated her matters. If he had known that Lung Ruoxue was so terrifying and difficult to deal with, he would not have dared to come even if he had 10 times the courage. What were the 3 and 4 alliances on the divine continent? Could it be more important than his own life? Moreover, the 4 Alliance Masters had lost their lives. He didn't want to end up like them and leave his life in Lung Ruoxue's hands. Chapter 2682, Preparing to Wipe Them Out in One Fell Swoop. 3. The third Alliance Master kept on reflecting in his heart. After a long time, he revealed an extremely ugly smile and put down his pride. "I was wrong. I won't seek revenge from you, all right? The Godly Lands 3 and 4 alliances offended you, so they deserve it. They asked for it. I can't blame you for this. It was true. Please believe me. Can you represent the Ascender Alliance by saying this?" Lung Ruoxue blinked her eyes and asked. "I can. I definitely can." The third Alliance Master saw that there seemed to be a chance and quickly smiled to please him. "It's a pity that I don't believe you," Lung Ruoxue said calmly. Her words made the third Alliance Master choke and anger him, but he didn't dare to say anything. Lung Ruoxue looked at the other party's face as she tried to suppress her anger. She turned to the mother parasol tree and said, "Senior, let me borrow your rattan. Take it." The mother parasol tree generously tossed over a long and thin vine. Lung Ruoxue held the vine in her hand and flung it gently. The long vine then bound the Ascender Alliance's members together. Lung Ruoxue, what are you doing? Quickly release us? The Third Alliance Master did not even realize what Lung Ruoxue was trying to do before he was tied up. When he finally reacted, the first thing that rose in his heart was a deep fear. This kind of unknown danger was really not good for them. You're my captives now. How can I let you go? Actually, you should feel lucky that I didn't kill you all like I did with the 3 and 4 alliances. You can still keep your lives for now. In the future, I can't say for sure. Lung Ruoxue spoke in a carefree manner. Upon hearing her words, the hearts of the Ascender Alliance members began to race wildly. They were extremely uneasy, but this woman had already scared them out of their wits. They did not have the guts to resist the evil forces. So, some of the Ascender Alliance members who had accepted their fate began to sob again. Lung Ruoxue ignored their actions and turned to the mother parasol tree. Senior, please stop. Let's leave this place. The pitiful Zhang Miao had already been knocked unconscious by the mother parasol tree, unconscious. Hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, the parasol tree mother tree nodded and put Zhang Miao down with a look of disgust. She asked, Shuer, what should we do with these people? Let's see the attitude of the Ascender Alliance first. These people are our hostages. Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. Actually, she really hadn't thought of how to deal with these people. It was obvious that most of them were the elites of the Ascender Alliance, so she couldn't easily get rid of them like she had done with the 3 and 4 alliances of the Godly Continent. If she really did that, and the Ascender Alliance was driven to desperation and turned to Wu Li, this wasn't the outcome she wanted. All right. Then let's go home as soon as possible. I'm starting to miss everyone. The mother parasol tree said anxiously. Senior, don't go home first. Go to the Divine Realm's 3rd and 4th Union. Lung Ruoxue suggested with a smile. However, the mother parasol tree did not quite understand Lung Ruoxue's words and looked at her with a confused expression. Collect more hostages. Lung Ruoxue laughed. Once he said that, everyone present understood. So he wanted to wipe out the headquarters of the 3rd and 4th alliances. Ruthless. He was really too ruthless. The Ascender Alliance members were especially regretful. Who had they offended? How could there be such a shameless human in this world? At this moment, they were so regretful that their intestines turned green. However, no matter how remorseful they were, it was none of Lung Ruoxue's business. After sending everyone into the house, Lung Ruoxue even walked towards the 3rd Alliance Master and smiled. 3rd Alliance Master, do you like this place? No, I don't like it. I don't like it. The 3rd Alliance Master stammered. Although he didn't understand the demon's intention, he knew that it was a trap. Suddenly he was shocked. Could it be that the other party knew what he was thinking? Thinking of this possibility, the 3rd Alliance Master's face became even paler. He revealed an innocent and bitter smile and added, I'm not interested in this place, really. It doesn't matter if you're interested. As long as you can defeat me, this place will be yours. Lung Ruoxue suggested with a smile. I'm really not interested. Hearing this, the 3rd Alliance Master was so anxious that tears welled up in his eyes. He was really too blind. How could he dare to use this demonic woman as his stepping stone to climb up? He was really courting death. The 3rd Alliance Master, who had thought it through, lowered his head in desolation. The desolate aura around him made him look rather pitiful. Lung Ruoxue stopped teasing him and turned around to leave the house with the parasol tree mother and Yu. After leaving the house, without even waiting for their master's instructions, Yu carried the 2 of them and directly flew towards the Ascender Alliance's encampment in the deity world. The Ascender Alliance of the Divine Realm was several times more powerful than the Ascender Alliance of the Divine Continent. Yu had flown for close to 10 days before he finally arrived at the territory of the Ascender Alliance. Thanks, the layout of the Ascender Alliance here was slightly different from that of the Divine Continent. Once one entered the Ascender Alliance's territory, they would first come into contact with the 5 alliances. Then, the 5 alliances would form a ring in order, with the main alliance located in the center of the 5 alliances. Each of the 5 alliances had a teleportation formation that could lead them directly to the general alliance. The moment Lung Ruoxue and the Mother Parasol Tree entered the alliance, they attracted the attention of the spies. In the divine world, Lung Ruoxue's reputation was definitely much more resounding than in the divine continent. Even a small fry would have long remembered Lung Ruoxue's appearance. This was unlike the Ascender Alliance on the divine continent. Other than a few who had seen Lung Ruoxue's appearance, most of them had only heard of her name. As for her appearance, they did not have much of an impression. They had only heard that she was a peerless beauty that could cause the downfall of a country. It couldn't be said that they didn't value the existence of Lung Ruoxue, the god of slaughter. It was just that no one had expected Lung Ruoxue to go to the godly mainland, so the people there had naturally let down their guard against her. If they were to accidentally offend the other party, they could only blame it on their bad luck. When the spies of the 5 alliances sent news of Lung Ruoxue's arrival back to the 5 alliances, the 5 alliance masters immediately panicked. Then why did the killer god come? Didn't he get the alliance masters of the 5 alliances to send her a letter? Why did that woman walk into the trap? The alliance masters of the 5 alliances, who could not figure it out, felt a headache coming on. More importantly, he was not clear about Lung Ruoxue's intentions, so he was in a mess. Furthermore, he had secretly sent someone to pass on the news to Lung Ruoxue. Hence, he was even more afraid that Lung Ruoxue would be captured by the Ascender Alliance. If she betrayed him, his future would be completely gone. It should be known that no force would tolerate traitors, and he did not really want to betray the Ascender Alliance. It was just that the competition between the 5 alliances was too intense, so sometimes, in order to take a step further, it was common to use some extraordinary means. This time, he wanted to drag down the 3rd and 4th alliances, but now, he felt like he was riding a tiger and couldn't stop. Just as the 5th alliance master was pacing back and forth in his living room, a guard suddenly stammered and reported that 2 women wanted to see him. Before the 5th alliance master could finish listening to the report, he was already greatly shocked. 2 women? Was it Lung Ruoxue and another woman with unfathomable power? The 5th Union Master wanted to say that he didn't want to see her, but a female voice suddenly rang in his ear. The threshold for the 5th Alliance Master is so high. It's not easy to see you. With that, the 2 women entered uninvited, and then graciously found a place to sit. Lung Ruoxue. The 5th Alliance Master immediately recognized him. Alliance Master Wu has good eyes. Your guards don't seem to be able to recognize them. Lung Ruoxue glanced at the uneasy guard and smiled. When the guard heard this, he was so embarrassed that he wanted to find a hole to hide in. Wu. It wasn't that he didn't recognize the other person's identity. He was the one who was completely dumbfounded. You may leave. The 5th Alliance Master's anger rose when he saw the guard's cowardly appearance. He knew that the guard must have been frightened. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been unable to speak clearly when he was reporting. When the guard heard this, he heaved a sigh of relief as if he had received a special pardon and quickly turned around to escape. At this moment, the 5th Master forced himself to be alert and asked in a seemingly casual manner, "May I know why young Lady Leng has come to the Ascender Alliance?" 2 things. First, thank you for your tip-off. Second, naturally, I'm going to the 3rd and 4th alliances. Lung Ruoxue said directly. I don't understand what Miss Lung is saying. The 5th Alliance Master played dumb. Lung Ruoxue glanced at the other party indifferently and said, "It doesn't matter, as long as I understand." The 5th Master was speechless, and the atmosphere became heavy. He didn't say a word, and Lung Ruoxue didn't speak either. Both of them just stared at each other. In the end, it was the 5th Alliance Master who could not stand the pressure and surrendered. "Miss Lung, please don't harm me, old man." "Why would I harm you? Not only will I not harm you, but I also have to congratulate you. The 4th Alliance Master is already dead, and the 3rd Alliance Master has become my prisoner. If there are no accidents, you should be able to take over the position very soon. Isn't this what you want the most?" Lung Ruoxue was all smiles as she spoke in an extremely understanding manner. After hearing this, the fifth alliance master was so scared that he fell to the ground and asked with a trembling voice, "The fourth alliance master is dead? The third alliance master had been captured? What about Vice President Zhang Miao?" In all honesty, he had never expected Lung Ruoxue to kill the fourth alliance master. Originally, he only wanted to embarrass the other party and ruin their reputation. Who knew? However, he didn't have much sympathy for the dead alliance master for. He was just a little scared. Lung Ruoxue's courage was not ordinary. Chapter 2683, The General Union Struggle, 1. In the eyes of the five alliance masters, Lung Ruoxue, who was more courageous than anyone else, was still smiling when she heard the other party's question. "The third alliance master and your vice president Zhang Miao are both in my hands. They are my hostages now." Hearing this, the fifth alliance master wished he could faint. So, why did she let him hear such a terrifying truth? Lung Ruoxue was too evil. Alliance Master Yusang's face was filled with anger. Lung Ruoxue was like a demon in his heart. The more he looked at her, the more afraid he felt. Especially now that she had something on him, what should he do? He was so worried that his hair was about to turn white, and the expression on his face was extremely conflicted. When Lung Ruoxue saw this, she smiled faintly and said, "Don't worry, fifth master. I won't tell anyone that you were the one who tipped me off and gave me the chance to capture third master and that Zhang Miao alive." As if he would believe that. The fifth master gritted his teeth in hatred. Then what was she doing here? In his opinion, although the other party said that they were here to thank him, the situation before him was clearly a threat. "I really didn't do anything." After sighing for a long time, the five alliance masters finally said this. "Alliance Master 5, I know you want to do a good deed without leaving your name. I understand. You don't need to explain." Lung Ruoxue replied calmly. After she finished speaking, she stood up with the parasol tree mother tree and said, "Since you already know how grateful we are, well, take our leave now. We still have business to attend to in the third and fourth alliances. Also, if there's any news from your side, remember to let me know at any time. I hope we can work together happily in the future." After that, Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree walked out of the five alliances without giving the five alliance masters a chance to reject. Only the depressed and conflicted Alliance Master 5 was left standing in the living room. Had he boarded a pirate ship? The fifth master wanted to cry but had no tears. He deeply felt that he had found himself a big problem, and this big problem was obviously one that he could not get rid of. What should he do? If the General Alliance knew what he had done, he would definitely be expelled from the Ascender Alliance. The fifth master pulled at his hair worriedly and circled the living room again. However, the news that came after that made his jaw drop in shock. This was because not only did Lung Ruoxue and the other woman really go to the third and fourth alliances, they even kidnapped everyone from the two alliances and escaped unscathed. Such a reality made him both frightened and impressed by Lung Ruoxue's strength. Look at him, he came to the Ascender Alliance as if he was strolling in his own back garden. He came and left as he pleased. Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind. Since Lung Ruoxue was so powerful, it would not be a loss for him to work with her. As soon as this thought appeared, he could no longer control his excitement. His original entanglement and depression were miraculously calmed down. It was at this moment that he had decided to work together with Lung Ruoxue. Following that, he quickly sent a voice transmission to Lung Ruoxue to express his respect for her. He also told her that he would inform her immediately if there were any movements on his side. When Lung Ruoxue received the message from the fifth master, she was already on her way back to the land of demons. After that, she told the mother parasol tree about this matter, which made the mother parasol tree sigh. How can the Ascender Alliance have such an alliance leader who is a traitor? Haha. Lung Ruoxue laughed happily when she heard the mother parasol tree's comments. She didn't care whether the Ascender Alliance was good or not, as long as they didn't provoke her again. 5 days later, you carried Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree back to the land of demons. According to his master's request, Feather first flew around the sky above the land of demons. Lung Ruoxue, on the other hand, looked down from the sky and realized that the construction speed of the land of demons had increased significantly since she had left. The prototype of the city had basically appeared. Thanks, the streets and houses were all available. All kinds of tall trees and precious flowers were planted around the main house. It was obvious that Uncle Long and the others had put a lot of effort into this place. Who is it? Don't you know that you can't fly in other people's territory? Suddenly, an angry roar rang in Lung Ruoxue's ears. Following that, a huge red phoenix appeared beside Lung Ruoxue. Lung Ruoxue blinked her eyes. This phoenix looked so familiar. The red phoenix blinked its eyes as well. It did not recognize Lung Ruoxue, but it was familiar with the aura of the mother parasol tree. When it felt the mother parasol tree's motherly aura, the phoenix's eyes were suddenly filled with tears. It could not be bothered to accuse Lung Ruoxue and the rest of them for not following the rules. It immediately pounced on the mother parasol tree's feet and started wailing. What was this situation? Lung Ruoxue had already recognized the phoenix. Wasn't this the housekeeper of the Phoenix King who had run away from home? Why was it here? The mother parasol tree helplessly patted the little head of the crying phoenix, then carried it up. However, the former housekeeper of the Feng clan cried even more miserably. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue's expression darkened even more. How long were they going to cry for? At this moment, another voice was heard. Master! The moment Lung Ruoxue raised her head, a little red phoenix crashed into her arms. Fengzhan, how are you? Lung Ruoxue asked as she gently stroked Fengzhan's little head. Oh no, I miss Master. Fengzhan said with an aggrieved expression. Master, I'm back. Lung Ruoxue smiled helplessly. Master, you won't leave again, right? Fengzhan asked, a little worried. They had never been separated from their master for so long. Temporarily not. Lung Ruoxue nodded. Fengzhan was happy to hear that. He turned around and saw a certain phoenix crying. He shouted unhappily, Why are you crying? They'll sell you if you keep crying. Lung Ruoxue was a little shocked. What did this mean? Could it be that the construction of the land of demons ran out of money again, so they had to rely on selling orcs? Was this good? Lung Ruoxue's thoughts ran wild. However, when the former housekeeper heard this, he immediately stopped crying. With tears in his eyes, he looked at Fengzhan pitifully and choked out, Young master, I was too excited. I like the aura on this person, it smells like my mother. Nonsense. She's the senior parasol tree mother. Fengzhan's face was filled with resentment as he roared. He was deeply helpless against this subordinate of his who had gone off track. Other than the time in their mother's body, almost all phoenixes grew up with the parasol tree. Therefore, in the hearts of the phoenix tribe, the parasol tree was definitely not inferior to their parents. Furthermore, the mother parasol tree was the ancestor of all the parasol trees. Wasn't it normal for the phoenixes to feel close to it? Chapter 2684, The General Union Struggle, 2. But when the Feng clan's former steward heard Fengzhan's words, his eyes widened in disbelief and shock. He trembled as he said, Wutong, isn't the mother Wutong already dead? You bastard! You're the one who's dead. When Fengzhan heard this, he roared in anger. To say that someone had died in front of them, was this something a normal and intelligent beastie would do? I didn't mean it that way. A certain butler was very embarrassed. It's okay, little guy. I understand what you mean. I'm not dead. I'm still alive and well. At this moment, the mother parasol tree gently stroked the head of a certain butler and said softly, Old ancestor, a certain butler was touched. The old ancestor was so gentle. You dare to try crying? Seeing that his subordinate was thinking of rain again, Fengzhan immediately shouted, Don't scare it. Look at how scared it is. Lung Ruoxue glanced at the trembling butler and said helplessly, Master, this fellow is too stupid. I really don't understand why the Phoenix King would let it be the housekeeper. Fengzhan complained. Then, she briefly explained to her master the reason why this stupid butler was here. Only then did Lung Ruoxue understand that this butler had been captured by humans before and had been accidentally rescued by Uncle Long and the others. I think it was frightened by you. Lung Ruoxue's eyes were burning as she spoke after understanding the butler's experience. Is that so? Feng Zhan blinked, then looked at the housekeeper and said loudly, You're afraid of me? Don't be afraid. I am not afraid. A certain butler trembled as he whispered. You're still not afraid? Feng Zhan, Lung Ruoxue, and the parasol tree mother tree were all speechless. However, Feng Zhan was kind enough not to make things difficult for that stupid subordinate. After the feather landed, Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree received a warm welcome from Uncle Long and the rest at their doorstep. However, Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree were a little frightened by the crowd's enthusiasm. Helpless, Lung Ruoxue could only move out her own people from her house and wake up those who were in closed-door cultivation. Then she instructed Qing Ju to wake up the people who were in seclusion in the bracelet. When his grandfather, big brother, and the cheapskate ancestors saw their old friends who had not seen each other for a long time, they naturally exchanged warm greetings. Uncle Long had also arranged for people to prepare a grand banquet to welcome the Luo family, Wanshan City, the Lung family, and the Lan family. Looking at the magnificent scene of nearly 10,000 people, Uncle Long's eyes shone with a wolf-like green light, which made the people from the Haotian continent shiver. Isn't this a little too enthusiastic? He was so enthusiastic that it made people wonder if the other party had any ulterior motives. The group of people from the Haotian continent felt particularly uneasy. Thanks after the celebration banquet ended, the Haotian continent's representative, led by Lung Xiaoqing, went to find Xue in private and asked about the matter. Lung Ruoxue didn't know whether to laugh or cry when she heard their doubts and worries. Was it wrong to be a little more enthusiastic? However, Uncle Long and the others were indeed too enthusiastic. It was no wonder that they were frightened. After some thought, Lung Ruoxue smiled and explained, Don't worry, I won't sell you guys off. Uncle Long is only so friendly because he's happy to have help. A helper. Lung Xiaoqing and the others could not understand. As you can see, my demon city is under construction, and I need manpower the most. So, since you want to stay here, you naturally have to do some work. Of course, if you have a better place, I won't force you. Lung Ruoxue said calmly. As soon as she finished speaking, the few people present naturally understood. Of course, they wanted to stay with Lung Ruoxue. One had to know that this was the divine realm. They could be in danger of losing their lives at any moment. Without Lung Ruoxue's protection, it would be difficult for them to move a single step in the divinity. Therefore, it was really nothing to make them work a little. The few of them had no objections to Lung Ruoxue's request. After that, Lung Ruoxue sent them to Uncle Long and let him arrange their work. Uncle Long first inspected everyone that Lung Ruoxue had brought back. The people from the Luo family and Wanshan City were his own people, so he was naturally satisfied. These people didn't have any arrogance and were obedient. Basically, they would do anything. But what about the Lung and Lan families? It was easy to arrange for these people who were used to doing manual labor and did not have a high status. What made it difficult for him was the elders who were high up in the Lung and Lan families and had quite a high status. These people were not easy to arrange. In Uncle Long's eyes, these people were simply the clan's insects, the type that just ate and waited for death. Because in terms of strength, they were not the highest. In terms of status, they were not the highest either. However, they were very difficult to serve, even more difficult than the ancestors of the Lung and Lan families. At least those old ancestors and Zong-level people could see the situation clearly and know what should and shouldn't be done. However, many of these people were not clear about it and still felt that they were insufferably arrogant and needed others to look up to them as elders. Uncle Long had never been soft-hearted when dealing with people like this. The ancestors of the Lung family and the Lan family knew what kind of people they had, so they had told Uncle Long to use their people as he pleased. Of course, Uncle Long wouldn't stand on ceremony. Since he was here, he had the final say. However, he was still quite gratified that the other party's old ancestor could make such a statement. At least there were still people who understood. After everyone had been assigned their jobs, Uncle Long finally let out a sigh of relief. With the help of these people, Demon City would be completed in less than a month. However, his plan was very good. When the work had just begun, some elders of the Lan family and the Lung family were already very dissatisfied with the heavy work that Uncle Long had arranged for them. In the hearts of some of the elders, they were elders after all. Even if they didn't arrange some light work for them, they shouldn't let them do such heavy work, right? One had to know that some of the blue and cold clansmen, whose status were lower than theirs, had an easier job than them. This fact made them feel particularly unbalanced. With this thought in mind, they quickly went to complain to their ancestor. When Lung Xiaoqing and the Lan clan's old ancestor heard this, they did not even frown. They only told them that it was fine if they did not do it, but they had to leave this place. In fact, the ancestors of the Lung and Lan families were well aware that the workplace Uncle Dragon had arranged for them would be given to them as their territory in the future. In other words, as long as the construction of the workplace was completed, they could settle down in Demon City. This was much better than letting them wander around like headless flies. Furthermore, this was the divinity, not the Haotian continent. With Lung Ruoxue as their backer, they were more than happy to have her. How could they let a few clansmen who could not bear hardships destroy the shallow friendship between the two sides? Chapter 2685. The General Union's Struggle, 3. It was precisely because of this thought that they agreed with Uncle Long's arrangement. They even appreciated Uncle Long's kindness because they knew that Uncle Long only wanted to train these elders. Otherwise, if these people were released in a place like the Divine World, they would definitely die a miserable death. After hearing that they had to leave if they didn't do it, some of the elders of the Lan and Lung families, who failed to complain, all wilted like frost eggplants and ran back to work dejectedly. With their strength, they would die if they left this place. Under the pressure of the Lan and Lung families' ancestors, this small storm did not get too big. It even calmed down very quickly. As for those fellows who had once thought highly of themselves, after seeing that the many members of the Phoenix race and the White Tiger race here were also working seriously, they became completely honest and began to work as they were told. When Uncle Long received the news, he laughed very proudly. Hee, it was a good thing there were people in those two families who understood. Otherwise, his painstaking efforts would have been fed to the dogs. Demon City, which was under construction, was temporarily peaceful. Everyone was working hard for their home. On a certain day, while Lung Ruoxue was away, the master of the Ning family, who had returned to the Ning family to settle some matters, came back in a hurry. As soon as he entered the courtyard, he shouted, "Shue, you brat, come out." Hearing this, Uncle Long and Dongfang Yu walked out of the living room first. They looked at Master Ning with a puzzled face and couldn't help but ask, "Old man Ning, what's wrong? What are you shouting about?" "Shue is in seclusion refining. Don't disturb her." "Why are you still refining? Do you know what that girl did?" The master of the Ning family roared with a dark face. "What did Shue do?" The two of them looked at each other and asked in unison. "That girl, she destroyed the Ascender Alliance's third and fourth alliances on the Divine Continent and captured all the members of the Divine Realm's third and fourth alliances. The Alliance Master is asking me for her." The master of the Ning family said helplessly. The master of the Ascender Alliance was an old friend of his, and the other party knew of his relationship with Shue, so he had come to him directly, wanting him to help mediate. However, the master of the Ascender Alliance had been vague about why Shue was like this, so the master of the Ning family, who thought himself to be smart, knew that there must be something he didn't know. Of course, he did not think that this matter was Shue's fault. That girl is too lazy. She would not take the initiative to find trouble with others, but if someone provoked her, she would definitely be ruthless. It was precisely because he knew of Shue's vengeful character that he felt that this definitely had nothing to do with his own girl. However, that stinky girl actually did not tell him that she had returned to the Divine Realm, and this made him rather angry. It was because of this reason that he had come to settle the score with the little girl. Do you think we have to give her to you just because you want her? There's no such thing. Dongfang Yu immediately said disapprovingly. His thoughts were similar to Master Ning's. He knew that the Ascender Alliance must have annoyed Shuer. Otherwise, Shuer wouldn't be like this. However, it was a little strange that Shuer didn't tell them about this. It is. What could he do if she didn't give it to him? Are you going to bite us? Uncle Long also shouted in an unreasonable manner. You. The master of the Ning family was rendered speechless by their tone. Why were these two people becoming more and more like bandits? Godfather is here. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue heard the commotion and walked out with a smile. The moment he saw Lung Ruoxue, Master Ning's anger surged and he shouted at the top of his voice, "You brat, why didn't you tell me you were back?" I forgot. Uncle Long and the others can prove that as soon as I returned, I was immediately pulled away by the great elder of the Craftsmen's Guild headquarters to refine artifacts. If you hadn't come, they wouldn't have let me out. Lung Ruoxue explained, feeling wronged. She had brought back a lot of materials for refining weapons and elixirs from Haotian continent. When the weapon fanatics and alchemy fanatics saw her, they couldn't care less about anything else. In addition, some of the materials were so rare that no one had ever seen them before, so they immediately started to study them. As for himself, he naturally couldn't escape the fate of being captured to help with research. I knew it. The master of the Ning family said angrily, and even turned his head arrogantly, ignoring Shuer. Lung Ruoxue was helpless and could only try her best to coax Master Ning. After much difficulty, she managed to coax Master Ning, but Uncle Long refused to accept it. Uncle Long looked at Lung Ruoxue with a face full of resentment and said, "Shuer, you have hostages in your hands. Why don't you hand them over to me? It just so happens that we don't have enough manpower." Not enough manpower? Lung Ruoxue was speechless. She hadn't forgotten that Uncle Dragon had told her that Demon City would be completed in a month. This clearly meant that they had enough manpower. Uncle Long, they're from the Ascender Alliance. Do you feel at ease letting them help build the Land of Demons? Lung Ruoxue blinked her eyes and asked calmly. Thanks. I really can't be at ease. After thinking for a while, Uncle Long said worriedly. Humans and beasts were different. Most beasts were very honest and kept their promises, but humans? It was hard to say. Of course, there were also good ones among the humans, but not the ones from the Ascender Alliance. In Uncle Long's heart, he didn't have a good impression of the Ascender Alliance. That's why I didn't tell you. Lung Ruoxue said matter-of-factly. It's fine if you didn't tell us, but now the Ascender Alliance is coming to find you. What are you going to do? Uncle Long could not help but ask. I don't know. It depends on what they want to do. Lung Ruoxue said irresponsibly. Then, she took the initiative to tell the three of them about how she had formed an enmity with the Ascender Alliance. After hearing this, Master Ning was the first to get angry. I knew that old man wasn't being honest. He didn't tell me the truth. Well, humans are so cunning. How can you be so insincere when you ask for help? Uncle Long was also very dissatisfied. I think we'd better wait for the Ascender Alliance to come to us. Anyway, we have to see what they think. Whether it's a war or a negotiation, well, accompany them all. Dongfang Yu said after some thought. Yes. Uncle Long and Master Ning both nodded in agreement. Lung Ruoxue had no objections to their decision. Just like that, Lung Ruoxue and the rest did not take this matter to heart at all. After Master Ning arrived, she even took some time to accompany him so that her godfather would not complain again. They were calm and peaceful, but the Ascender Alliance's general alliance was not. Ever since the people from the Third and Fourth Alliances had fallen into Lung Ruoxue's hands, a few important figures from the General Alliance had almost gone crazy. Even though they didn't have much contact with Lung Ruoxue, they knew more about her than anyone else. They also knew that Lung Ruoxue was difficult to deal with. Hence, they had been in a frenzy recently. Especially the Alliance Master, who was so worried that his hair had turned white. At this very moment, in the Ascender General Alliance's conference room, the few people present were all influential figures in the Ascender Alliance. Even in the Divine Realm, they had a considerable status. However, at this moment, they felt extremely conflicted because of the same person. Chief, didn't you contact Master Ning? Why hasn't there been any news from Master Ning yet? The conference room, which had been silent for a long time, became lively again because of this sentence. As soon as the man finished speaking, everyone's eyes turned to the middle-aged man sitting at the head of the table. This middle-aged man was dressed in black and his aura was well hidden. However, his tall figure made it difficult for him to hide his superior aura even when he was sitting on the chair. His handsome features were extremely serious at the moment, and his tightly furrowed brows showed that he was not in a good mood. He was depressed, and not just depressed. Especially after he heard this question, his face turned even darker. Master Ning hadn't sent him any news for a long time, so he already knew that the matter wouldn't be so easy to solve. Unfortunately, some fools didn't understand this. There's no news from Master Ning. I guess there's no conclusion yet. At this moment, the young man closest to the Alliance Master said indifferently, Vice President, you're wrong. Isn't Leng Ruoxue Master Ning's goddaughter? Does she dare to disobey her own godfather's words? The person who spoke raised his question again. Fifth Elder, you also said that he's her godfather. Why should she listen? The young man raised his eyebrows and asked with a faint smile. Without Master Ning, would Leng Ruoxue have her current status in the divinity? Our Alliance Master has been kind to Master Ning, and we're asking him for a favor this time. Shouldn't Master Ning repay this favor? The fifth elder said matter-of-factly. Upon hearing this, the Alliance Master sitting at the head of the table frowned even more. What did he mean by he was kind to Master Ning? If these words were to spread, Old Man Ning would probably be completely angry with him. Master Ning and I only have some history, it can't be considered a favor. As for Leng Ruoxue, the fact that she's where she is today really doesn't have much to do with Master Ning. Finally, the Alliance Master spoke. How is this possible? That girl is just a woman, and she has just ascended not long ago. How could she have achieved such great success in such a short time? This is clearly the work of Master Ning. The fifth elder said stubbornly. Fifth elder, don't forget that Leng Ruoxue is Master Yes' disciple. With the identity of Master Yes' disciple, wouldn't it be a piece of cake for Leng Ruoxue to occupy a piece of land in the divinity? The young man, who was the vice president that the fifth elder had mentioned, reminded him. But Master Yu has already passed away for many years. The fifth elder still wanted to argue, but before he could finish, the Alliance Master interrupted him. He's still Master Yu. The Alliance Master said seriously and gave the fifth elder a warning look. In the divine realm, while Master Yu was a taboo, it was also best not to rashly discuss matters regarding Master Yu. After all, there were many fans of Master Yu who were hidden in the dark and not known by others. If they were to find out that someone was questioning Master Yes' authority, they would definitely suffer a storm of revenge. He absolutely did not want the Ascender Alliance he had founded to become the target of the other party's revenge. No one could bear the consequences. Chapter 2686. What happened to us? 1. After receiving the Alliance Master's warning, the fifth elder immediately became more obedient. In reality, he was extremely depressed as well. However, he was not depressed because the third Alliance Master and the others had fallen into Leng Ruoxue's hands. He was depressed because the General Alliance did not mobilize a large force to seek Leng Ruoxue out for revenge. He couldn't understand why the Alliance Master was so afraid of a little girl. In his opinion, a little girl was not easy to deal with. However, the Alliance Master and the Vice Alliance Master did not want to fall out with Leng Ruoxue. This fact made him rather worried. He also had a stomach full of complaints to say, but seeing that the chief's expression wasn't too good, he couldn't bring himself to say those words for a while. At this moment, the fifth elder was in a dilemma. He wanted to say something, but he didn't dare to. After a long time, he couldn't help but reveal a constipated expression on his face. However, the Alliance Master of the Ascender Alliance did not think too much about it. More importantly, he suddenly felt extremely vexed as he looked at these people in front of him. With a wave of his hand, the Alliance Master ordered everyone to leave, leaving behind only his most trusted Vice Alliance Master, the young man. After a long silence, the Alliance Master did not say anything. The Vice Alliance Master sat beside him with a calm expression. It was not until he heard a sigh that the Vice President raised his eyebrows slightly, but he still did not speak. Li Jing, what do you think we should do about this? After an unknown period of time, the Alliance Master finally spoke. Alliance Master, you must think twice before you act. Leng Ruoxue isn't someone to be trifled with. She doesn't even place the Divine Master in her eyes, let alone our Ascender Alliance. Li Jing thought for a moment and spoke carefully. Although his words made the Alliance Master a little depressed, he had to admit that Li Jing was telling the truth. Leng Ruoxue definitely had the ability to be arrogant. If the Divine Master did not take her seriously, what was the Ascender Alliance? What's more, the Ascender Alliance had provoked her. Thinking of this, the General Alliance Master couldn't help but sigh. This period of time could be considered the most sullen period for the Ascender Alliance. As for the conflict between the Ascender Alliance and Leng Ruoxue, although he had immediately dealt with it after the incident and forbade anyone from leaking this matter, how could this matter be hidden from the top factions? He knew that most of the top forces had probably received the news long ago and were waiting to watch a good show. Regardless of the outcome, such a matter was quite disadvantageous to the Ascender Alliance. If the Ascender Alliance were to admit defeat, then the status of the Ascender Alliance in the Divine Realm would probably plummet in the future. What qualifications would they still have to interact with some of the top powers on equal footing? However, if they were to go head-to-head with Leng Ruoxue, the outcome would probably be even worse. That little girl might be young, but she was definitely ruthless enough. If he really offended her, the Ascender Alliance might just disappear from the Divine Realm. These two outcomes were not what he, the Ascender Alliance's master, wanted. However, since things had already come to this, he seemed to be unable to think of a better way. He was worried. He was really worried. Thanks, Li Jing felt helpless when he saw the Alliance Master sighing again. In his opinion, this matter was not that difficult to handle. As long as they lowered their stance and had a good talk with Leng Ruoxue, they should be able to resolve the issue. However, the Alliance Master was obviously unwilling to do so. He also knew why the Alliance Master was unwilling. It was because he had always been high and mighty, and now he suddenly wanted to beg for mercy from a little girl. He couldn't let go of his face. Since he wanted to save face, he should not have saved the Third Alliance Master and the others. In any case, he didn't feel that those people were of any use, so Li Jing couldn't help but secretly praise them. Of course, he couldn't say these words out loud, so he could only think about it in his heart. On the surface, he had to put on a concerned expression. Alliance Master, I still suggest that we have a good talk with Leng Ruoxue. Let's discuss a solution that both sides can accept. Otherwise, if this matter continues to drag on, it will affect the morale of the Ascender Alliance. Li Jing suggested after some thought. You mean we should give in? The Alliance Master asked with uncertainty. How can this be considered giving in? This is a peaceful resolution. Otherwise, if we really fight over this matter, won't it benefit others? Li Jing reminded. However, many forces are watching us now, wanting to see how well handle this matter. If we let Leng Ruoxue off and don't pursue the fact that she killed so many of our men, I'm afraid that we'll become a laughingstock to outsiders and think that we're afraid of Leng Ruoxue. Even the people of our alliance will be dissatisfied. The Alliance Master said in a conflicted manner. Li Jing really wanted to roll his eyes at him after hearing his words. He really didn't know what the Alliance Master was thinking. What did he mean by letting Leng Ruoxue off and not pursuing the fact that she had killed so many Ascender Alliance members? It was obvious that Leng Ruoxue didn't want to get to the bottom of this. Otherwise, the General Alliance would be in deep trouble. He still remembered the Yao family. Any faction that offended Leng Ruoxue would not have a good life. If the Yao family, one of the 8 great divine regions, did not end up well, then the Ascender Alliance could forget about it. Li Jing understood this very well and knew that Leng Ruoxue was not to be trifled with. However, The Alliance Master had fallen into a misunderstanding. He could not get past his own hurdle. He always felt that negotiating with Lung Ruoxue would make the Ascender Alliance lose face. But what could they do if they didn't negotiate? Wouldn't the losses be even greater? Moreover, the Ascender Alliance's third and fourth alliances people were all in his hands. They could either negotiate to get her back, or they could fight their way into the demonic land to get her back. There were only these two methods. And it seemed that the second option was quite unrealistic. The strength of Lung Ruoxue's side. Alliance Master, I'm in favor of peace talks. Moreover, you've looked for Master Ning. Isn't it because you don't want to have a direct conflict with Lung Ruoxue and the others? Since that was the case, negotiating for peace was the best choice. You're daydreaming if you think you can get the people from the third and fourth leagues back without showing up. Li Jing stood up and gave his final advice. He then bowed and left the meeting room. After Li Jing left, the Alliance Master fell into deep thought again. At the same time, the fifth elder of the Ascender Alliance was jumping up and down, trying to get the other elders to stand on his side and put pressure on the General Alliance Master. After he had shamelessly harassed the elders of the Ascender Alliance, he finally found the Great Elder, who was known for his integrity and was the least likely to be moved by his words. The fifth elder, who was sitting in the first elder's room, looked uneasily at the calm middle-aged man sitting opposite him. He didn't know what to say. As for the Great Elder of the Ascender Alliance, he drank his tea as if there was no one else around. He did not care if the other party had anything to say. Basically, he had already treated the other party as non-existent. After an unknown period of time, the fifth elder finally couldn't bear it anymore and asked, "Great Elder, you've always been highly respected in the Ascender Alliance. You can't ignore the matters of the third and fourth alliances." Chapter 2687. What happened to us? 2. I didn't do anything. First elder sipped his tea and said lightly, "Then you should have urged the Alliance Master to quickly settle the score with Lung Ruoxue so that you can avenge the people of the third and fourth alliances." When the fifth elder heard this, he was somewhat impatient. "I'm just an elder. If you ask me to urge the Chief Alliance Master, wouldn't that be offending my superior? I can't do such a thing." The first elder shot a glance at the fifth elder and said with a disapproving look, "Are we not going to take revenge for the third and fourth alliances?" The fifth elder couldn't help but widen his eyes and ask in disbelief, "You want to avenge the people of the third and fourth alliances? Then tell me, how should we take revenge for them?" The Great Elder asked with a smile, "Of course we're going to find Lung Ruoxue to settle our scores." The fifth elder said through gritted teeth, "Are you going? If you want to go, I'm very willing to recommend you to the Alliance Master." The first elder looked at the fifth elder expectantly, as if waiting for his reply. Hearing this, the fifth elder almost choked. If he were to seek revenge from Lung Ruoxue, wouldn't that be like throwing a meat bun at a dog? He had to be able to defeat Lung Ruoxue and the others. "First elder, how can I be a match for Lung Ruoxue and the others? This matter needs the Alliance Master to step in personally." The fifth elder took a deep breath before suggesting with a serious expression, "You also know that Lung Ruoxue is difficult to deal with? Then what's the hurry?" The first elder was slightly displeased, and his face fell. The fifth elder was speechless. Was this old man playing with him? Alliance Master will definitely be able to deal with Lung Ruoxue. The fifth elder did not give up. He took a few deep breaths and calmed himself down. What if the Alliance Master can't handle it? You have to know that Lung Ruoxue's strength is not weak to begin with. She also has many godly venerable rank experts by her side. On the other hand, our Ascender Alliance only has 4 godly venerable rank experts, including Vice President Zhang Miao, who has fallen into Lung Ruoxue's hands. This number of godly venerable rank experts is not even enough to fill the gaps between the enemy's teeth. Do you think we can deal with Lung Ruoxue? The Great Elder asked calmly. So what if we can't deal with Lung Ruoxue on our own? We can join forces with other powers. The fifth elder suggested loudly. With who? The Great Elder blinked his eyes and asked with great interest. The God Lord's estate or the Yao family will do. That's right, there were also the few other magical beasts from the Phoenix clan who had enmity with Lung Ruoxue. Weren't these the best partners? Those forces are all very powerful and have a deep grudge against Lung Ruoxue. They are the most suitable people to look for. The more the fifth elder spoke, the more excited he became. It was as if they had already reached a cooperation agreement with the other party. Forget it. The Grand Elder shook his head. Let's forget about the Divine Master's estate. The God Lord's estate has countless enemies in the divine world. We can't be implicated by them. As for the Yao family and the Phoenix tribe, Fifth Elder, if you can convince them, I can represent the Elder Council and make a suggestion to the Alliance Master. Otherwise, don't even think about it. First Elder's words were very clear. He wanted Fifth Elder to contact the other forces. If they were willing to work with them to deal with Lung Ruoxue, then there would be no problem. If they were not willing, then this matter would naturally be dropped. Hearing this, although the Fifth Elder's expression was a little awkward, he still nodded and said, "Since the Great Elder has said so, I'll go and discuss this matter with them now." With that, the Fifth Elder immediately took his leave. After the Fifth Elder left, Li Jing suddenly pushed open the door of the next room and entered. The Great Elder sitting on the chair glanced at the other party and said indifferently, "You heard everything?" "Thanks, yes." Li Jing nodded. "What are your thoughts?" The Great Elder asked with an evil smile. "He's looking for death," Li Jing said with a cold smile. It's good to let him try. When he hits the wall, he'll know how difficult it is to deal with Lung Ruoxue." A cold light flashed in the First Elder's eyes as he spoke with disdain. "It's fine if he's hit a wall, but I'm afraid that he'll bring trouble to our Ascender Alliance. You should know that little girl, Lung Ruoxue, is a vengeful person. If things go wrong, the entire Ascender Alliance might be implicated by him." Li Jing said worriedly. "I don't think so. Didn't you already send someone to contact Lung Ruoxue in private? I believe that little girl is not unreasonable." The Grand Elder said calmly. In the entire Ascender Alliance, his and Li Jing's positions were more similar. They wanted to negotiate with Lung Ruoxue and settle this matter peacefully. The General Alliance Master was hesitant and couldn't make a final decision. On the other hand, Fifth Eldress and her gang only wished for the world to be in chaos. They were bent on falling out with Lung Ruoxue. Although he didn't know why the Fifth Elder was so concerned about this matter, he was sure that the guy didn't have good intentions. "I hope so." Li Jing didn't think that Lung Ruoxue would give him any face. The key to this matter was still the Alliance Master. After all, the Ascender Alliance's chief still had the final say. As the Ascender Alliance's master could not make a decision, the rescue plan was temporarily put on hold. However, the Fifth Elder of the Ascender Alliance was busier than ever. After finding an excuse, the Fifth Elder left the Ascender Alliance in an imposing manner. On Lung Ruoxue's side, their lives were as peaceful as ever. It was only until someone who claimed to be from the Ascender Alliance came to visit that his peaceful days were interrupted. Sitting in the living room, Lung Ruoxue's beautiful eyes sized up the man in front of her. She kept feeling that he looked familiar. She seemed to have seen him somewhere before, but she was sure that she had never seen him before. The man was very young, looking less than 30 years old. He was very tall, and his blue clothes made him look even more handsome and sunny. Initially, he had a smile on his face. However, under Lung Ruoxue's careful observation, his smile gradually disappeared. A trace of uneasiness uncontrollably rose in his heart. "What's your name?" Seeing that the young man seemed a little nervous, Lung Ruoxue smiled and retracted her gaze. She asked politely, then invited the other party to take a seat. "Li Xiao." The young man replied, pretending to be calm. "Is there something you need?" Lung Ruoxue blinked her eyes and directly asked the other party's purpose for coming. "It's my father, no. It was our vice president who sent me." Li Xiao was a little reserved. Lung Ruoxue's gaze gave him too much pressure. He was so nervous that he couldn't breathe. "Oh, what did they send you here for? You want to negotiate with me?" Lung Ruoxue guessed. No, Li Xiao stuttered. "If you're not here to negotiate with me, then what are you here for?" Lung Ruoxue was amused by his words. Why was this person so nervous that he could not even speak clearly? The Deputy Alliance Master sent me to tell you that the Ascender Alliance has yet to reach a consensus. After the opinions are unified, they will give you an explanation. Swallowing his saliva, Li Xiao's heart was beating wildly. He finally finished speaking. Lung Ruoxue didn't know how to respond. If she didn't guess wrong, the Ascender Alliance should have long been in chaos, right? At this time, a certain Deputy Alliance Master had sent his own child over. It was obvious that he wanted to appease her so that she would not misunderstand that the Ascender Alliance was deliberately making an enemy of him. It had to be said that this Vice Alliance Master was quite considerate of the Ascender Alliance. He just didn't know if the Ascender Alliance would be grateful for his painstaking efforts. Chapter 2688. What happened to us? 3. I know. Lung Ruoxue nodded and didn't say anything else. Hearing this, Li Xiao was a little depressed. Also, he could not tell if Lung Ruoxue was happy or angry. He wouldn't be able to explain it to them when they returned. After thinking for a while, Li Xiao said, Can I stay here for a few days? I think the environment here is not bad. He wanted to build a good relationship with Lung Ruoxue and the others after he had settled down. At that time, if anything happened between the Ascender Alliance and Lung Ruoxue, they might not hold it against him on account of their good relationship. He had to admit that his idea was very realistic and practical. But it was a pity that he met Lung Ruoxue. Lung Ruoxue knew what the other party was up to, but she still agreed to let him stay temporarily. She only stipulated that he could not leave the main residence. Li Xiao didn't have any objections to this. He was also very obedient. After staying here, he didn't do anything outrageous except occasionally chatting with Uncle Long and the others. However, following Li Xiao's arrival, something that Lung Ruoxue found unbelievable happened. Li Zhong and his brothers actually recognized Li Xiao and even called him Old Ancestor. When Lung Ruoxue found out about this, she felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She had to confirm it again and again until Li Zhong and the others told her with absolute certainty that Li Xiao was indeed their old ancestor. She still felt as if she was dreaming. A random person from the Ascender Alliance was actually her big brother's ancestor. Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? Lung Ruoxue believed Li Zhong and the others, but she was still worried about Li Xiao. After confirming it with Li Xiao again and again, Li Xiao couldn't bear the other party's suspicious gaze anymore. He cried and promised that he was really the ancestor of Li Zhong and his brother, and he would never lie. Li Xiao had even said that if Lung Ruoxue didn't believe him, he could swear to the heavens. Lung Ruoxue saw that the other party was about to swear an oath under her pressure and immediately smiled. Of course I believe you. It's just that your intentions aren't pure. I can't let my brothers get hurt. Her words were very honest, and Li Xiao was so touched that he was in a mess. He even felt a little embarrassed for his previous thoughts. In the end, he still told Lung Ruoxue sincerely, I did stay because I want to build a good relationship with you. After all, the Ascender Alliance has different attitudes towards this matter. My father and I are afraid that some people will accidentally offend you and bring greater disaster to the Ascender Alliance. Therefore I was sent here. My father and the Great Elder want to negotiate with you. I can be considered to represent their attitude. Therefore, please understand that I really don't have any bad intentions. After saying these words and acknowledging his own descendant, Li Xiao was not as nervous when facing Lung Ruoxue. Instead, he was more sincere. On top of that, when he found out that his juniors were the victims of the Divine Continents Alliance 3 and Alliance 4, he was so angry that he almost killed the Lady of Alliance 3 and Alliance 4. Of course, not only would Lung Ruoxue not allow him to do so, Li Zhong and the rest would not allow it either. They hadn't had enough fun yet. How could he let those two die so easily? Li Xiao thought about it and felt that this made sense. He was not in a hurry to get rid of the Lady of the Third Alliance and the leader of the Fourth Alliance. However, their days became more difficult after that. However, his relationship with Li Zhong and the others grew closer and closer. He also sent this matter back to the Ascender Alliance and told his father. When Li Jing found out that his descendant had come to the divine realm, he immediately informed the Alliance Master and rushed to Demon City without stopping. The scene of family meeting was naturally warm and lively. Uncle Long and the others were also happy that Li Zhong and his brother had found their family. They even specially arranged a celebration banquet, and everyone took this opportunity to have a good time. After reuniting with Li Zhong and the others, Li Jing was considered to have completely stood on Leng Ruoxu's side. Furthermore, he was especially grateful to Leng Ruoxue for saving his descendants. Otherwise, his little fellows would have suffered quite a bit. Naturally, Leng Ruoxue did not need him to be polite. Li Zhong and the rest were her godbrothers. How could she not save them? After staying in Demon City for a few days, Li Jing knew that he could not stay any longer, so he returned to the Ascender Alliance reluctantly. Before he left, he even told Leng Ruoxue that he would definitely think of a way to get the Alliance Master to negotiate with them. Leng Ruoxue only nodded her head and did not say anything more. In reality, in Leng Ruoxue's heart, she really did not care what attitude the Ascender Alliance would use to deal with this matter. Of course, it would be best if both sides could sit down and negotiate. However, if the other party wanted to fall out with her, she was not afraid. However, with Li Jing's relationship, it was unlikely that the two sides would fall out. After Li Jing left, Li Xiao stayed behind to act as the bridge between the Ascender Alliance and Leng Ruoxue and the others. He was in charge of communicating the attitudes of both parties. Basically, Leng Ruoxue's attitude had remained the same from the start. Thanks, they had given the Ascender Alliance a great deal of choice. It's fine to negotiate or fight, but it all depends on your choice. As for Leng Ruoxue and the rest, their lives had returned to normal. After Li Jing returned to the Ascender Alliance, he was surprised to find that the fifth elder had also returned. However, the fifth elder's expression wasn't too good. Seeing this, Li Jing couldn't help but laugh secretly. Looking at the fifth elder's dark expression, it was obvious that he had failed. It had to be said that Li Jing was right. The travel-worn fifth elder had come to the Yao family's divine realm. In the beginning, he had been warmly received by the other party. However, as soon as he had explained his purpose for coming, he had been immediately chased out by the Yao family like a fly. After that, he went to a few other beast clans that had enmity with Leng Ruoxue. He didn't even manage to enter their gates before he was beaten out. It could be said that he had left in a hurry but returned in a sorry state. The fifth elder, whose journey had not been smooth, returned to his room and threw a tantrum, but finally stopped. Without the fifth elder's interference, Li Jing felt that it would be much easier for him to convince the Alliance Master. Unfortunately, he was still thinking too easily. Just as they were discussing again in the conference room, and the Alliance Master was wavering and was about to make a decision, a guard suddenly came to report, "Someone from the Godlord's estate has arrived." Li Jing had a bad feeling when he heard this. Nothing good could come from the Godlord's manor at this time. Then, he turned to the Alliance Master and saw that the Alliance Master was frowning. It was obvious that he did not think highly of the Godlord's mansion's purpose. However, the fifth elder, who had been listless all this time, suddenly jumped up and shouted as if he had been injected with chicken blood, "Chief Alliance Master, the Godlord's estate has sent someone here. What are we waiting for? Let's go out and welcome them." "All right then." The Alliance Master stood up and said to Li Jing, "Li Jing, come with me to welcome the Divine Master's estate's representative. All the elders can stay in the conference room." "Alliance Master, how can we do that?" Hearing this, the fifth elder was indignant. How could he not give them such an opportunity to show their face? "Why not? Don't tell me you dare to disobey me?" The master scolded with a scowl. "I don't dare." The fifth elder hurriedly lowered his head, but he was extremely unwilling in his heart. Why did Li Jing have to benefit from being in the limelight, while they had no chance at all? The fifth elder was filled with grief and indignation, but more than that, he was jealous. However, at this time, neither Li Jing nor the Alliance Master cared about what the fifth elder thought. Very soon, the Alliance Master left the meeting room with Li Jing. Unwilling to give up, the fifth elder wanted to follow them out, but he was stopped by the first elder, who had been pretending to be asleep. The fifth elder had no choice but to stay in the meeting room unwillingly. As soon as Li Jing and the Alliance Master left the conference room, they went straight to the gate. According to the guard, the Divine Master's estate's representative was still standing at the gate, putting on airs and not willing to come in. The two of them invited the Divine Master's estate's representative into the living room with great respect and served him good tea and snacks. At first, the representative of the Godlord's estate had wanted to continue putting on airs and not speak, but when he saw that the other two were not saying anything, he could not hold it in. One had to know that he had guaranteed that he would definitely pull the Ascender Alliance to his side during this trip. Now that the other party did not take the initiative to ask him what was going on, how could he start? After thinking for a while, he decided to ask in a gentle and casual way, "I heard that something happened to the Ascender Alliance recently?" Hearing this question, the Alliance Master and Li Jing looked at each other. After receiving the Alliance Master's signal, Li Jing blinked innocently and asked, "What happened to us?" The representative of the Godlord's manor was so angry that he was about to explode. "Why are you asking me what happened?" After taking a few deep breaths, the representative of the Godlord's estate said, "I heard that you guys have some conflicts with Lung Ruoxue. That brat killed your people from the third and fourth alliances? There's such a thing." Li Jing's eyes widened in disbelief. "You don't have any?" The representative of the Godlord's estate was furious. He truly felt that it was tiring to talk to this guy. "No, I didn't. Lung Ruoxue and I have never been in the same line," Li Jing said calmly. This time, the representative of the Godlord's estate was at a loss for words. The other party refused to admit it, so what else could he do? The anger in his heart gradually rose, and when he thought of the purpose of his trip, the representative of the Godlord's estate showed an unhappy expression. "I wouldn't have come if I didn't have enough evidence, so don't play dumb with me." Chapter 2689. Quickly let go of my girl? 1. We're really not playing dumb, and there's really nothing wrong, Li Jing said very seriously, but he couldn't help but think to himself, even if I play dumb with you, what can I do? Are you going to bite me? It was the Alliance Master who asked him to represent them. If he didn't play dumb now, he wouldn't be led by the nose by the idiots in the Divine Master's estate. He wasn't that stupid. When the Alliance Master heard Li Jing's words, he had a hard time holding back his laughter. He had never known that Li Jing was so talented at lying through his teeth. When he saw that the Godlord Manor's representative's face was red with anger, he suddenly felt much more at ease. It was as if the depression he had felt during this period of time had been swept away. It seemed that seeing others being unlucky was indeed much better than being unlucky. Thinking of this, the Alliance Master became even more silent. He even wanted to pretend to be invisible. It didn't matter if he pretended to be invisible. At least Li Jing could speak on his behalf. However, a certain representative of the Godlord's estate couldn't avoid it. No matter how angry he was, he could only brace himself and deal with the two Ascender Alliance members. However, he also didn't want to see the Alliance Master Fong sitting in his seat like a wooden man without a word. He glanced at the Alliance Master and said with suspicion, "I only found out today that the Ascender Alliance's Vice Alliance Master has the final say." Then he turned to Li Jing. "Vice Alliance Master, you said you're fine. I want to ask you, what's up with the 3 and 4 alliances of the Godly Continent? Didn't they get exterminated by Lung Ruoxue? Also, the 3rd, 4th alliances, and the Deputy General Alliance of the Firmament have fallen into Lung Ruoxue's hands. Shouldn't you explain these things to me?" The representative of the Godlord's estate said arrogantly as if he had found something that could be used against them. However, the General Alliance Master, who had remained calm even if a mountain collapsed in front of him, did not say a word. He only smiled at the representative of the Godlord's estate and lowered his head to look at the ground. Li Jing laughed as well, his laughter rippling. He said in a calm and composed manner, "Your Excellency, what you said is just a trivial matter. We, the Ascender Alliance, did not take it to heart at all. More importantly, these are the internal affairs of our Ascender Alliance. Do I have the obligation to explain it to you clearly?" His words were a little impolite. It was obvious that he was saying that the Divine Master's estate was a busybody. The Divine Master's estate representative was furious when he heard this. He stood up from his seat and shouted, "Li Jing, you really don't want to accept a toast only to drink a forfeit. Our Godlord's estate was kind enough to help you solve your problem, but you don't appreciate it. You really don't know what's good for you. You'll regret this one day." After shouting this, the representative of the Godlord's estate flicked his sleeves and left angrily. Watching the back of the Godlord's estate's representative, the two people sitting in the living room did not chase after him. However, the chief still said with a conflicted expression, "Is it all right for us to offend the Divine Master's estate like this?" "Chief, unless you want to submit to the Godlord's mansion," Li Jing said indifferently. "Why would I want to submit to the Divine Master's estate? I don't have any good feelings towards the Divine Master's estate." The Alliance Master quickly denied. "So what if I don't offend them? If I don't say something harsh, the people of the Godlord's estate won't give up." Li Jing said very calmly. "What you said makes sense." The Alliance Master nodded in agreement and didn't dwell on this matter anymore. He had already offended her, so what else could he do? Seeing that the General Master's mood wasn't affected by the God-Lord Manor's representative, Li Jing took the opportunity to do his job as the General Master. As for the God-Lord's estate's representative, after leaving the Ascender's General Union in a rage, he didn't leave immediately. Instead, he stayed in an inn in the city. The God-Lord's estate's representative was unwilling to give up since he had not completed his mission. Thus, he had contacted the elders of the Ascender Alliance in private. The first person that a representative who had investigated the Ascender Alliance contacted was the fifth elder. After the two of them had a good chat in the room, the representative seemed to have promised the fifth elder some conditions, and the fifth elder became active again, as if he had been injected with chicken blood. He once again secretly tried to win over the fifth elder of the Ascender Alliance. Thanks, of course, the people he had privately looked for this time were those who had a good relationship with him and were closer to him. It was because this matter was too important to him. He hesitated for a few days. The Alliance Master finally made a decision. He wanted to personally head to the land of demons to negotiate with Lung Ruoxue. When Li Jing heard the Alliance Master's decision, he was naturally delighted and expressed that he was willing to go with them. The first elder, on the other hand, stayed at home to keep watch. Just as Li Jing and the Alliance Master were ready to set off, the Ascender Alliance was in chaos. A portion of the elders, led by the fifth elder, had betrayed them. Glancing at the fifth elder and the others who were leading a large group of fiendish-looking men in black and blocking the Ascendant's General Alliance's courtyard, Li Jingmei raised his eyebrows slightly, but he still asked calmly, "Fifth elder, what is the meaning of this?" We won't allow you to negotiate with Lung Ruoxue." The fifth elder laughed arrogantly, his face full of pride. Li Jing furrowed his brows when he heard this. "They just don't want us to negotiate with Lung Ruoxue? Or do you have another purpose?" Vice General Li Jing is really smart. I knew I couldn't hide anything from you. Fortunately, I did it in secret this time. You're right, not allowing you guys to look for Lung Ruoxue is only one aspect. On the other hand, I feel that it's time to change the Ascender Grand Master and Vice Grand Master, don't you think so? As the fifth elder spoke, he turned around and asked the person behind him. The elder beside him immediately agreed, "That's right. We can't just watch the Alliance Master do something wrong, so we're going to impeach the Alliance Master and Vice Alliance Master." These words were righteous, but in the General Alliance Master's ears, it was full of sarcasm. They clearly wanted to force them to abdicate, but they could still say it so arrogantly. Why didn't he realize how shameless these people were before? At this moment, the Alliance Master was very regretful. It seemed like he had indulged them too much in the past and given them too much power. Otherwise, how would they dare to betray him? How would the people from the Third and Fourth Alliances dare to disobey his orders and find trouble with Lung Ruoxue behind his back? But now, what was the use of blaming himself? With this thought in mind, the Alliance Master became calmer. He laughed coldly and looked up at the fifth elder with his dark, starry eyes. "Fifth elder, Can you explain where these black-robed men came from? Just as the fifth elder was hesitating whether to say it or not, another voice suddenly sounded, "They're all my people." The one who had spoken was the representative of the God Lord's estate, who had parted on bad terms with Li Jing and the Alliance Master. At this moment, a certain representative was in high spirits, looking at Li Jing and the Alliance Master as if they were prisoners. "Since you're a member of the Divine Master's estate, why do you care about the matters of our Ascender Alliance? Wasn't the Divine Master's estate's hand stretching out too far? Or does the House of God want to take the lead in breaking the rules?" The Alliance Master asked calmly. Chapter 2690, Quickly Let Go of My Girl, 2. According to the unspoken rules of the divinity, if there was a conflict between two forces, unless one of them requested the God Lord's estate to uphold justice, the God Lord's estate could not intervene on their own accord. When one side asked the Divine Lord to show up, the conflict between the two sides had to be made public. The Divine Lord's office had to make a fair judgment without any bias. Otherwise, it would go against the Divine Lord's office's fairness and justice. Now, neither they nor Lung Ruoxu's side had requested for the God Lord's estate to step in. Yet the God Lord's estate had extended their hand. This in itself had violated some of the tacit rules of the God world. However, when he thought about the situation of the Lord God's Manor, it seemed that the Lord God's Manor had lost its fair and just image in many people's hearts since the last bounty incident. It was not so strange that they could do such a thing. But even so, the Alliance Master was still extremely angry with the actions of the Divine Master's estate, especially when some idiots from the Ascender Alliance had also participated in this matter. This made him even more furious. How could our God Lord's estate break the rules? It was your fifth elder and the others who strongly requested for us to intervene in this matter. Otherwise, we wouldn't have meddled in this. The representative of the God Lord's estate laughed complacently. He couldn't help but complain in his heart. If he hadn't promised the fifth elder so many benefits, why would that old man be willing to be used by him? He's not the Alliance Master. What right does he have to make such a request? Your God Lord's estate actually listens to an elder. This is really disappointing. The Alliance Master roared with a dark face. This is none of my business. It's the fifth elder and the others who feel that you don't have the right to be the chief and want to impeach you and the vice chief. I saw that he had a good reason, so I stood on the side of justice and helped him a little. The God Lord's estate's representative found an excuse for himself. However, both Li Jing and the Alliance Master scoffed at his words. "Chief, don't waste your breath on them. We have no choice but to fight," Li Jing reminded. The Alliance Master nodded, and the two of them were ready to attack. As the saying went, to catch a thief, you must first catch the leader. Therefore, both of them targeted the representative of the God Lord's estate and attacked one of them at the same time. However, the representative of the God Lord's estate calmly raised his hand, and then Li Jing and the Alliance Master, who were in the middle of the attack, felt their bodies go soft and fell to the ground. At this moment, the two of them could not exert any strength at all. Although their bodies were weak, their minds were extremely clear. "What did you do to us?" Li Jing looked at the representative of the Divine Master's estate in anger and roared. "Oh, he's quite energetic. I didn't do anything to you, I just used some extreme means to subdue you. Who asked me to not be your opponent?" The representative of the God Lord's estate replied with a smile. Li Jing felt hatred in his heart when he saw his smug look. Damn it. He didn't expect that he would actually fall for it. The other party was really too despicable. The Alliance Master was equally hateful. Ever since he had become famous, he had never been treated like this. But today, he felt an unprecedented humiliation. His sharp eyes glared fiercely at the Divine Master's estate's representative. The Chief Alliance Master said in a cold voice, "You'd better pray that I don't have a chance to be saved. Otherwise, you'll definitely not end well. Don't worry, no one can save you," the God Lord's estate's representative guaranteed. Then he gave the fifth elder a look. The fifth elder understood and immediately brought his men to capture the first elder and the others. However, the first elder and the others didn't resist, which puzzled the fifth elder. "Thanks, first elder, why aren't you resisting?" The fifth elder asked in confusion. "Is there any use resisting? The General Union and the Vice Union Master have been captured, and we're not as strong as them." The first elder glanced at the fifth elder and said calmly, "Ha! Great elder was still the tactful one. Don't worry, as long as you're obedient, I won't kill you." The representative of the God Lord's estate laughed cheekily. It was clear that the Grand Elder's words had pleased him. However, the fifth elder was not willing to see the representative of the God Lord's estate admire the Great Elder too much. He went to the side of the God Lord's estate's representative and fawned, "Your Excellency, from today onwards, I should be the Ascender Alliance's chief, right?" "Yes, do your best for the Divine Master. He won't mistreat you." The representative of the God Lord's estate said, "I won't let the Divine Master down." "Oh right, that Lung Ruoshue?" Fifth elder asked again. "Lung Ruoshue is nothing to be afraid of. Our Divine Master will take care of her." The God Lord's estate's representative boasted. "That's good." The fifth elder was finally at ease. Soon after, he gave an order, and Li Jing, the General Alliance Master, and the others were all locked up in the Ascender General Alliance's prison. While they were in prison, the fifth elder came to visit them almost once a day. Of course, he wasn't going to visit them. He was going to mock them and watch the show. The people in the prison were well aware of this. Therefore, no matter how depressed they were, they remained calm on the surface. Li Jing, in particular, would mock the fifth elder from time to time, causing the fifth elder to fly into a rage every time, but there was nothing he could do about it. At most, he would kick him a few times in anger, but he did not dare to kick him too hard. This was because the God Lord Manor's representative had said that Li Jing and the Chief Alliance Master were still of great use and had to be alive. The fifth elder did not dare to disobey the other party's words. After a major change happened in the Ascender Alliance, the news was immediately blocked. Therefore, the outside world was still unaware that an earth-shaking earthquake had occurred in the Ascender Alliance. Li Xiao started to worry after she couldn't contact her father no matter how hard she tried. However, he was also afraid that he had made a mistake in being paranoid. Hence, after enduring for a few days and not being able to contact Li Jing, he went to look for Lung Ruoshue in a panic. At this moment, Lung Ruoshue was in the Bengal, discussing with the first elder of the Armament Guild headquarters about the matter of refining armaments. When she heard Li Xiao calling for her loudly from outside her room, she helplessly put down the matter at hand and walked out of the Bengal. The moment she saw Lung Ruoshue, Li Xiao immediately grabbed her hand and said anxiously, "Shuer, something must have happened to my father." "Don't be anxious, speak slowly." Lung Ruoshue consoled. "I can't contact him, something must have happened to him. Could it be that the Alliance Master did not agree with his opinion and felt that he had betrayed the Ascender Alliance, so he locked him up?" Li Xiao guessed anxiously. "I don't think so." Lung Ruoshue blinked her eyes. She really wanted to tell Li Xiao that she was thinking too much. Li Jing wasn't so stupid as to reveal his own trump card first. "Shuer, I can't be wrong. There are many factions in the Ascender Alliance. If someone knows the relationship between my father and you, there will definitely be people who will hit you when you're down. In case it causes the Alliance Master's suspicion, my father will most likely be convicted as a traitor. I know them too well." Li Xiao sobbed, his eyes filled with tears, but he forced them back. Chapter 2691. Quickly let go of my girl. 3. Seeing him like this, Lung Ruoshue didn't know how to comfort him. If his guess was right, then she really couldn't just ignore the fact that something had happened to her godbrother's ancestor. After some thought, Lung Ruoshue said seriously, "Li Xiao, you don't have to worry too much. I'll discuss this matter with Uncle Long and the others to see what we can do." "Shuer, I'll have to trouble you," Li Xiao said, somewhat embarrassed. "It's no trouble at all. Just wait for my news." Lung Ruoshue turned around and left the courtyard. He had only taken 2 steps when a white bolt of lightning suddenly rushed into his arms and found a good place to lie down. Lung Ruoxue glanced at the little white fur ball in her arms and said helplessly, "Azure, you've come out of seclusion?" Only after she returned did she find out that Azure was in closed-door cultivation. When she heard the news, she was baffled. As a tool spirit that had cultivated for tens of thousands of years, was there still a need for it to go into seclusion? I didn't go into seclusion, I just took a nap. Now that he had woken up, Nyo had also returned. That's good. Song was still in his cat form. He stretched lazily and said with a smile. Then, he snuggled into Lung Ruoxue's arms and acted coquettishly. You. Lung Ruoxue was helpless. She knew it. How could Azure go into closed-door cultivation for no reason? So he went to sleep. As the man and beast conversed, they had already reached the living room. Uncle Long, Dongfang Yu, and the others were currently looking at Demon City's blueprint. It was unknown what they were discussing. When they sensed Lung Ruoxue's arrival, everyone raised their heads in unison. "Shuo, that old man is willing to let you out?" Master Ning looked at Lung Ruoxue with a face full of dissatisfaction as he complained. "Yes, I came out for something." Lung Ruoxue smiled. "What is it?" Uncle Long asked with a frown. Shuo wouldn't show up unless there was something important, but once she did, it would definitely be something big, so he was a little worried. Li Xiao told me that Li Jing seemed to have met with an accident. Lung Ruoxue said bluntly. "How could this be? That guy isn't weak, and he's a reverent god, so he shouldn't be in trouble that easily." Uncle Long didn't believe it. After spending a few days with Li Jing, he knew very well how sinister and cunning that human was. Nothing would happen to him even if something happened to anyone. But Li Xiao said that he can't be contacted. "Uncle Long, do you think we should send someone to take a look? What if something really happened?" Lung Ruoxue suggested. "Who's Li Jing?" At this moment, Azure, who heard the name of a stranger, couldn't help but ask. "The Ascender Alliance's Vice Alliance Master, and also my godbrother's ancestor." Lung Ruoxue explained. "It seems like many things happened while I was sleeping." Lung Ruoxue was speechless. This was not the main point, okay? There's no need to go and see. Something has indeed happened to the Ascender Alliance. Song said with a frown. It had just used its divine sense to investigate and found that there were many subordinates of the Mist Ripple Bitch. What? Hearing this, everyone present couldn't help but stand up from their chairs. Because what Song said was true. Something had indeed happened to the Ascender Alliance. And not that something had happened to Li Jing. What did this mean? Senior Azure, can you explain yourself? Master Ning said carefully. Their divine senses could not see that far away, and they could not use their divine senses to check on others in the divine realm. Otherwise, they would cause disputes if they were discovered. However, as the spirit of the God-protecting tower, Song had no such concerns. If you're looking for someone called Li Jing, I've found one in the prison of the Ascender General Alliance. Moreover, he's not the only one in that prison. There's also someone called the General Alliance Master. Azure smiled faintly. The person known as the Alliance Master is also locked up in a cell? Master Ning asked in surprise. There seems to be a great elder and a group of small shrimps. Azure added. Everyone present was speechless. Something had happened to the Ascender Alliance? Everyone found it unbelievable. One must know that the Ascender Alliance was also one of the top forces and its strength was definitely not weak. Who could have caused them to be in trouble? Could it be the doing of the Divine Master's estate? Is it the Divine Lord's estate? Uncle Long wanted to confirm. Yes. Song nodded and didn't keep him in suspense. Hearing this, there was a moment of silence. Thanks, why couldn't this God Lord's estate be more peaceful? Wasn't Wu Chen seriously injured? Could it be that he had recovered so quickly and was planning to come out again? Uncle Long, Godfather, since the God Lord's estate has made a move on the Ascender Alliance, we have to take care of this matter. The Ascender Alliance must not fall into the hands of Wu Cheng. Lung Ruoxue said seriously. The Ascender Alliance wasn't weak in the deity world. If they became Wu Xian's dog, it would cause trouble for them. She definitely didn't want to see such a thing happen. Otherwise, she would have dealt a fatal blow to the Ascender Alliance back then. Yes, Shui. Let's make a trip to the Ascender Alliance and rescue Li Jing and the others. Uncle Long and the others nodded in agreement. You guys stay at home, I'll go with Shui. Azure spoke again. Uncle Long and the others were dumbfounded. Was he looking down on them for being in the way? They're just a few small fries, there's no need for you to mobilize so many people. Azure continued. If Senior Tsang went, wouldn't that be considered a big move? Everyone couldn't help but secretly mutter to themselves. However, they absolutely didn't dare to say these words out loud, or else Senior Tsang would definitely be furious. Thinking about Azure's violence, everyone couldn't help but shiver. Helplessly, they nodded in agreement. In fact, they had no choice but to agree. Before they set off, Feng Zhan and Li Xiao had strongly requested to follow them. However, Tsang only glanced at them indifferently, and Feng Zhan immediately shut his mouth. However, he still didn't give up and mumbled softly, "With me here, we can fly faster. No matter how fast you are, can you be faster than me?" When Azure heard this, his mouth twitched and he said in disdain. This time, Feng Zhan was truly speechless. Although Azure couldn't fly, he could teleport. Even a supreme god couldn't catch up to him, so he really couldn't. After dealing with Feng Zhan, Tsang started to deal with Li Xiao. He looked at Li Xiao with extreme disdain and said, "You're just a weak child from a previous marriage, you should just stay at home. Don't drag us down." Hearing this, Li Xiao's heart was filled with tears. He was a divine emperor after all. Why did this cat say that he was a burden? And a weak child from a previous marriage? This was a huge blow to him. However, when he saw that everyone agreed with the cat's words, Li Xiao did not dare to reply. No matter how blind he was, he could tell that this cat had a high status in everyone's hearts. He really did not dare to provoke a cat like this. Especially when he saw that no one objected when the palm-sized white cat said that it wanted to go with Leng Ruoxue to save the people. He knew that this cat was not someone he could afford to offend. However, why had he never heard of such a cat by Leng Ruoxue's side? With a stomach full of questions, Li Xiao and the rest watched as Leng Ruoxue and Tsang teleported and disappeared from the main entrance. At this moment, an extremely resentful voice came from the crowd of people who were sending them off. "I can become invisible, but Master didn't even bring me along." Wu Ling was the one who was sobbing. He was extremely sad. Everyone looked at him with sympathy, not knowing how to comfort him. In everyone's understanding, with Tsang personally making a move, it was impossible for Shui to keep a low profile and save the person without anyone knowing. With that, Ling would naturally be of no use. What invisibility? Those were all fleeting clouds. Whatever Tsang wanted to do, he would always do as he pleased. It could be said that Azure didn't know what invisibility was. When it was in a good or bad mood, it preferred to use violence against violence. However, if Leng Ruoxue wanted to move stealthily, Azure would not object. But this time, Leng Ruoxue did not make such a request. So, Tsang naturally thought that Niu also agreed with its idea. Azure's speed was indeed fast. In less than an hour, Tsang had brought Leng Ruoxue to the Ascender Alliance's territory. When they arrived at their destination, the man and beast walked on the Ascender Alliance's streets as if there was no one else around. The moment the 5 Alliance Masters, who had rushed over after hearing the news, saw this, they immediately wanted to pull Leng Ruoxue to a corner with no one. When Tsang, who was being hugged by Leng Ruoxue, saw this, he immediately bared his teeth and shouted, "Bastard! What do you want to do? Quickly let go of my girl." Seeing that someone was trying to take advantage of his girl, Tsang was so angry that all his white fur stood on end. 2 sharp and cold lights shot out from his cold eyes, scaring the 5th Union Master so much that he immediately let go and hurriedly explained, "Don't misunderstand, I have something to report to this little ancestor. If you have something to say, say it. If you have something to fart, then let it out. Why are you touching me? You can't even take advantage of me." Azure was still very angry, and it even felt that the other party's explanation was a little too obvious. That's what bad guys say when they want to take advantage of others. Taking advantage of others is not human. Azure's brain automatically filled in the blanks. Lung Ruoxue broke out in a cold sweat. Song's thoughts. Hearing this, the Fifth Alliance master burst into tears. He did not have the guts to take advantage of this ancestor. He was just too excited and accidentally tugged on Lung Ruoxue's arm. Was he taking advantage of her? Don't malign me like this, okay? He was really aggrieved. The Fifth Alliance master looked at Lung Ruoxue with hidden bitterness, hoping that she would speak up for him. However, Lung Ruoxue ignored the pleading in his eyes and asked directly, "If you have something to say, just say it." "My ancestors." "It's not convenient to talk here, there are many people watching." The Fifth Alliance master warned with a bitter face. "What are you afraid of? They've already found out that you came to find me, so there's no need to hide." Lung Ruoxue said nonchalantly. She had long known that there were people following her and Song in the shadows. Now that the 5 Alliance masters had come to look for her, she did not believe that the cooperation between the two of them could still be hidden. Since that was the case, there was no need to do anything unnecessary. Chapter 2692. A Beautiful Misunderstanding. 1. Lung Ruoxue was very calm, but the 5 Alliance masters couldn't be like her. However, it did make sense after some thought. He had already come to see Lung Ruoxue, so the news of their meeting must have spread to the General Alliance. After thinking this way, the 5th master nodded and said straightforwardly, "The General Union is having an earthquake." "Just this?" "We already knew." When Azure heard this, he said with some disdain, "It thought that this guy had something important to do. It turned out to be a follow-up attack. You know? How did this happen?" He thought he was very fast. The 5th Alliance master was extremely conflicted. Under Azure's disdainful gaze, he didn't know what to do. Seeing the constipated expression on the 5th master's face, Lung Ruoxue nodded her head kindly. "We already know about it. That's why we're here." I thought." The 5th Alliance master could not continue. "Your news is indeed a little late." Lung Ruoxue sighed. "That's right. Their work efficiency is really bad." Song interjected from the side. Hearing this, the 5th Alliance master was so depressed that he didn't know what to do. After hesitating for a while, he explained, "I also wanted to tell you the news as soon as possible, but the entire Ascender Alliance has been blocked. The news can't be spread." "It's fine." Lung Ruoxue expressed that she did not mind. She then smiled at the 5th Alliance master and said, "Are you going to take us to the General Union?" "Yes, you can." The 5th master stammered. He had wanted to refuse, but then he thought that this was a good opportunity to make a contribution, so he didn't want to let go of this opportunity. After that, his eyes started to search behind Lung Ruoxue. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue was puzzled and asked, "Alliance Master 5, what are you looking for? Hurry up and lead the way." "Miss Lung, where are your subordinates?" The 5th master couldn't help but ask. "No, it's just the 2 of us." Lung Ruoxue pointed at the little cat in her arms. "Ah." The 5 Alliance masters were shocked. A human and a cat wanted to go to the General Alliance? To do what? Was he going to die? He was afraid. In this situation, it was obvious that he wouldn't get any benefits from the General Alliance. Did he still want to go? The 5th master was very regretful. He felt that he had agreed too early. Now, he was riding on a tiger and couldn't stop. If he didn't go, he didn't know if the kitten's sharp claws would tear him into pieces. Because he had already caught sight of the kitten's sharp claws hidden in the gaps between its toes. In just a few minutes, the 5th master thought about many things. In the end, he couldn't help but remind her, "Miss Lung, they have a lot of people, and you only have 2 people. The ratio of the people is a bit different. More people make things easier." The 5 Alliance masters felt that his words were very subtle, but in Song's ears, it was not the case at all. Song thought that this guy in front of him was clearly looking down on his combat strength. What was a mere ant to him? It could deal with it with 1 claw. However, although Tsang was somewhat angry, he miraculously didn't say anything. This further confirmed the 5 Alliance Masters' suspicions and made them even more worried. Lung Ruoxue noticed the obvious nervousness on the 5th Master's face and smiled. "The 2 of us are enough. The others have things to do and can't come here." "Thanks, B, but the other side had a lot of people." The 5th Alliance Master wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He wanted to say something, but after the cat casually glanced at him, he couldn't say anything. He was very worried. He was going to the General Alliance with them to make a contribution, not to die. Unfortunately, Lung Ruoxue couldn't care less about what the 5 Union Masters thought. She felt that her demon city was still under construction, so how could she stop the construction just because of the Ascender Alliance? Besides, there was no need for that. Therefore, she really could not understand why the 5th Master was so conflicted. Looking at the 5th Master's timid expression, Lung Ruoxue patted his shoulder and said, "Show us your manliness. We're not afraid, so what are you afraid of?" Of course he was afraid. After hearing this, the 5th Master felt even more resentful. He felt that he had really made a mistake. He didn't know if he could still keep his life after going to the General Alliance. So, the 5th Alliance Master was filled with regret. Why did he take the initiative to show Lung Ruoxue the way? Wasn't this self-inflicted? However, no matter what he was thinking now, it was impossible for him to back out. Thus, he made up his mind and said, "Miss Lung, how about I go back and bring some people over?" "Your people? Will that do?" Lung Ruoxue was a little suspicious. It wasn't that she wanted to attack the other party, but the 5 alliances were the weakest under the Ascender Alliance. The 5th Alliance Master was in tears. Lung Ruoxue was stabbing a knife into his heart. He was really accurate. At this time, Cold opened his mouth. "It's good to bring some people, but they'll at most be our audience and cheer for us." Song's words settled the attitude of the 5 Alliance Masters' subordinates. The 5 Alliance Masters accepted their fate. He didn't believe that his people wouldn't be able to help. With this thought in mind, the 5 Alliance Masters immediately returned to their encampment to gather their men. They also agreed to wait at the teleportation array with Lung Ruoxue. Just as Lung Ruoxue and Song Bai were standing beside the teleportation array in boredom, the teleportation array suddenly lit up. Lung Ruoxue raised her brows and saw a group of people walking out from the teleportation array. The man in the lead looked familiar, but Lung Ruoxue could not remember where she had seen him before. "Miss Lung, it's great to meet you here." The man in the lead exclaimed in surprise the moment he saw Lung Ruoxue, who was beside the teleportation array. "You?" Lung Ruoxue frowned, feeling puzzled. Did she know this man? The man burst into tears. From Lung Ruoxue's expression, it was obvious that she had forgotten about him. After thinking for a while, the man couldn't help but say, "Miss Lung, we met on the godly mainland. I was sent to deal with you. Have you forgotten?" She had really forgotten. However, with the man's reminder, Lung Ruoxue finally remembered. She said in realization, "So it's you." Seeing that Lung Ruoxue had remembered, the man was very happy. However, before he could show his happiness or have a chance to catch up with Lung Ruoxue, Song, who heard everything, immediately exploded and shouted, "You dare to bully my girl?" He was really tired of living. "I won't let you off. Just you wait. You bastard." What had its girl experienced before? Why did some random people dare to bully her? It would never allow such a thing to happen. Azure decided that when he had the time, he would definitely teach those who bullied Nyo a good lesson. He had to make them remember that not everyone could bully his Nyo. Chapter 2693, A Beautiful Misunderstanding 2. Thinking of this, Azure deliberately released some of his pressure, causing the man's face to turn pale with fright. He quickly explained, "I didn't bully Miss Lung. I was just following orders. Moreover, I even surrendered at that time. It's true. Miss Lung can be a witness." "Ooh, this cat is so fierce." The man didn't dare to let it misunderstand, so after explaining, he immediately looked at Lung Ruoxue, hoping that she could say something nice for him. At the very least, she had to comfort this angry cat. Yes, he didn't bully me. He has also surrendered. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue hurriedly spoke the truth. Otherwise, Song Yi might really kill the other party in a fit of anger. Hearing this, Azure's expression became slightly better, but he still asked fiercely, "Whose order did you follow?" Second Alliance Master. The man didn't dare to hide anything. Second Alliance Master, right? Very good, I won't let him go, he's dead. Azure gritted his teeth and shouted. He's already dead. I'm the Second Alliance Master now. Please don't misunderstand. The man choked. He felt that he had really encountered an undeserved disaster. How could he have encountered such a thing? How unlucky. I see. Looking at the man in front of him and then at Lung Ruoxue, Song decided to let the other party off. However, he still warned, "Kid, follow my girl in the future. I guarantee you'll have meat to eat." Yes, actually I'm here to look for Miss Lung. When the man heard this, he immediately expressed his stance. If you have something to say, say it. Lung Ruoxue asked out of curiosity. Miss Lung, something big has happened in the Ascender Alliance. I wonder if you are interested? The man, who was the current Second Alliance Master, asked in a low voice. What, you want to take the opportunity to climb up the ranks? Lung Ruoxue was very straightforward. After hearing this, the Second Alliance Master didn't know how to react. Could he not be so realistic? Although he did have that thought, he wouldn't have come to look for Lung Ruoxue the moment he found out that she had arrived at the Ascender Alliance. Hypocritical. You obviously want to, but you still pretend to be so noble. Seeing that the Second Alliance Master didn't speak, Song said with a look of disdain. Alright, I do have that thought, but other than Miss Lung, I don't know who to look for this kind of thing. The Second Alliance Master finally spoke the truth. This matter was definitely a great opportunity to rise in power. If he didn't grasp it, he would be a fool. Furthermore, he had already thought about it for a long time. He felt that in the entire immortal realm, other than Lung Ruoxue, there was no one else who would dare to interfere in this matter. However, he did not know if Lung Ruoxue would be willing to bring him along. Now that he was the one asking for help, the Second Alliance Master couldn't help but lower his stance. We can help you, but you have to listen to my girl in the future. Before Lung Ruoxue could speak, Song made the decision. No problem. I've always respected Miss Lung. The Second Alliance Master expressed his feelings. That's for the best, but you still have to make an oath after it's done, Song insisted. Thanks, I can swear it now. The Second Alliance Master immediately said, wanting to leave a good impression. You're quite tactful. Since that's the case, then swear. We won't mistreat you after this. Song Yun Nua said. The Second Alliance Master was very happy to hear this. He felt that it was understandable to make an oath. After all, who would believe an outsider for no reason? Hence, he did not hesitate to swear a loyalty oath to Lung Ruoxue. He also stated that he would not do anything to harm Lung Ruoxue. Otherwise, he would be severely punished by the rules of heaven and earth. Azure was satisfied and looked at the Second Alliance Master much better. In fact, even if he didn't make the other party swear, he believed that the other party wouldn't dare to do anything harmful to his own girl. However, wouldn't it save them a lot of trouble if they made an oath? Right at this moment, the Fifth Union Master had also arrived at the teleportation array with his team. Seeing the Second Master, the Fifth Master couldn't help but widen his eyes and ask loudly, Second Alliance Master, what are you doing here? Alliance Master 5 was a little uneasy. Nothing good could come out of the Second Alliance Master's visit. He didn't want the other party to snatch away his great opportunity, even though he didn't think Lung Ruoxue and that cat would do well. This wasn't because they doubted their strength, but because the number of people on the two sides was clearly not on the same level. I'm here to look for Miss Lung. The Second Alliance Master said confidently, but he couldn't help but sneer in his heart. He knew about the other party's relationship with Lung Ruoxue. However, they were both grasshoppers on Lung Ruoxue's vine now, so he didn't expose the Fifth Alliance Master. What is it? The Fifth Alliance Master had a look of vigilance on his face. He couldn't help but think to himself, when did the second alliance master have a relationship with Lung Ruoxue? Why didn't I know about it? He's here to work with us. He has the same goal as you, so we're all comrades now. You guys have to get along well in the future, understand? Seeing the tension in the air, Azure smiled faintly and explained. Hearing this, the second alliance master was very calm, but the fifth alliance master was a little conflicted and depressed. What the hell is this? Originally, he was the only one who would benefit, but now, the second alliance master was suddenly competing with him. This made him feel extremely unbalanced, as if something important was about to leave him. He felt a little pained. Song looked disdainfully at the narrow-minded fifth master and gave Lung Ruoxue a look. The man and beast then stepped into the teleportation array. Wait! Seeing that Lung Ruoxue had left, the fifth alliance master wanted to call out to her but was suddenly pulled back by the second alliance master. The second master glanced at the fifth master indifferently and said earnestly, "Alliance Master 5. One must be smart and know how to put in practice. Otherwise, if you make our sugar daddy unhappy, won't we be the unlucky ones?" What do you mean by that? The fifth alliance master didn't react in time. Do you think you can take all the benefits for yourself? I'm telling you, stop dreaming. If you make Lung Ruoxue unhappy, well, end up with nothing and you'll have to cry, so be good, okay? Well, just do whatever they say. More importantly, in front of Lung Ruoxue, it's best for us to appear to be more harmonious. Understand? Even if you're pretending. The second alliance master warned. I understand. The second master's words immediately alerted the fifth master. His earlier behavior had obviously angered the cat. He could not let this go on because he could feel that the cat had a very important place in Lung Ruoxue's heart. Otherwise, it would not make decisions for Lung Ruoxue. When he thought about his performance just now, he felt that he had already made Lung Ruoxue and the cat unhappy. What should he do? He was at a loss. The second alliance master looked at him, and the anger in his heart rose. How useless! No wonder he could only be the fifth alliance master. The second alliance master said, but he still had to put on a friendly expression and placate her. Be careful in the future and perform well. Now, let's quickly catch up to Lung Ruoxue and the others. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.